Haha, it'd be better if my mic was on. So help me out if things don't sound right. Let me know. If I'm talking and you can't hear me, let me know. The audio is the hardest part for me. But I'm Deshaun. Hello, can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? I had the mic on mute. Hopefully this is a little bit better. Perfect. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being here. Let me know where you're from. When you jump in, say hi. And tell us where you're from. Joining from. Because that's cool for me, is like seeing where everybody's coming in from. It's one of the projects that I want to do, is I want to like have pins. I want to be able to like say like, yeah, here's where we're getting people from, and I'm going to do a project. I used to work at Garmin, and like geodata is really interesting to me. So yeah, so I want to do one of those things. And Vaadin is a cool front end, and it's got some really cool geo map kind of stuff that makes it really easy. So you're using Spring Boot, you want to do stuff like that. Democ, hello, welcome. Bernard, thank you so much for coming in. Hello, hello. From the UK, Bernard, thank you. Coming in from Colombia. Demox from Germany. Chennai, wonderful. So like there's a difference here. Like this stream, what I'm planning on doing, it's not going to be like the, oh, hey, here, we do a thing and you can go back and follow it. This stream is more, I'm going to be working on things. I'll be working on things. Today it's Spring Boot, Spring AI, that web hook listener for YouTube, and then Redis, Spring Data Redis, and test containers. Like little things, like, so you're gonna get to see how I use it, and I'm gonna think out loud. That's the goal anyways, is I'll think out loud, but I don't have a timeline for getting things to production. So the main thing is ask questions. Interrupts. Welcome. I want to be the, and Anna knows way more than I do. Like, I just want to have a place. You're starting the day. Maybe you were stuck on something yesterday, and I want you to, this is what I want. I want you to be able to say like, hey, you know what? I'm going to back away from the desk today. I'm done, because I'm going to be able to talk to Sean, and I'm going to be able to ask my questions, talk to the duck, and I'll think about it. And maybe you'll get some tips. That's what I want. So I'm going to work on stuff, but later, the whole idea is like these projects that I build, I'll come back and I'll make a little video that says, hey, here's what we did. But I don't need to do that on the stream. I'm working on, that's the hard part for me, is like making those production ready videos, but I'm going to do it. I have to do it. I'm trying to get a head start on my New Year's resolutions. I want to make more content. I want to get more people streaming and using Spring Boot and taking Spring Boot to production. I'm excited about it, but I'm going to talk about, right? I talk about all things Spring. Raspberry Pis. And, right? And other SBCs, single board computers. I talk about Kubernetes. I have Kubernetes deployed across these things and getting things to production. I actually should put Buildpacks. Like, that's it. But I'm going to make mistakes. Please keep me honest. Shout out to Rob. Bernard might not be able to ask questions as I am at work and watching in the background. Perfect. That's what I want. That's kind of like the thing that I like. That's the thing that was exciting for me. That's the thing that I appreciated, was having somebody else in the background on another screen where I could just listen and see what they're doing, and maybe I'll pick up something. So yeah. DMAC, maybe as topic for future session, can you please cover how to deal with persistence DB in cluster? Yes, I can. I'm sorry, I'm getting pings, so I can't forget about my day job. So when my colleagues are pinging me, I gotta jump over, and I'll do that off the stream. All right. All right. But this, like your question, like that is the kind of thing. Fabricio, hello from Argentina. Because this, your question, DMAC, I'm going to put that like, should I have just a little of this? Like, so yeah, that's perfect. Like whether I do it today or we get into it, I will point out right away that this is something that I talk about. And I like that I can just go here. Like you don't have to wait for my answer. There's actually a video right here that you can go watch. So it's at deshaun.com. And actually there's a link. If we go to deshaun.com and the posts, this one, my children will never deploy active passive. I want you to watch that. Not right now, hang out, but watch that. And then, yeah, maybe we'll circle back to that because I am talking about persistence. I am going to take Redis to my cluster today, and we'll keep on going. So I'm going to now bring in Anand. Good morning.
Good morning, Deshaun. How are you?
Wonderful. You sound great to me. So I just want to like make sure that everybody else can hear you, and we'll go from there. The audio is the hardest part for me. So let's just go. I'm just kind of like recapping. So I already had a question on how to deal with persistence DB in a cluster, right? So inside of the cluster, I think that's one step, right? And then I think the next step is like across multiple clusters, right? Two different kind of approaches. So one of the things and this I think will resonate. So while we're talking about database persistence, I'm going to ask this question and then we're going to jump into a project I think you're aware of. There was a company here that the whole idea of having like one database, did not compute. You didn't have the ability. They wouldn't even put it on the menu that you could have one database in one AZ. That wasn't an option. Oh yeah, you're trying to save money now, but I think kind of the principle, the underlying thing was in your company, those projects that start off small, if they're going to, survive, and that's the goal, right? You don't build stuff that's going to go away. We've all done like, oh yeah, this will be replaced by something else. But what happens is that thing, until it's replaced by something else, it gets investment and then it becomes mission critical. You've seen that XKCD where it's like the tower of bricks being held up by one little OSS thing. Let me find that. XKCD, open source maintainer. The bricks, the dependency, that, right? Like, and there's businesses where this is like an Excel spreadsheet. That was the one that was in my background. They had all these other things that were tied to this one Excel spreadsheet that was living on a shared drive. And then that guy left and they got rid of his shared drive. And then everything was a mess because there was a bunch of these calls being made to this Excel spreadsheet that this one person was maintaining. And it was a
You
mess.
would be surprised how many people and how many companies still have those kind of links. The weak links, if you will, right?
You know what? Are you hearing yourself back? Are you
Not
hearing an
really.
echo?
No.
Okay, good. Yeah, let me know if the audio is good. I'm trying to get this stuff figured out.
This is awesome.
So yeah, the idea, going back to this persistence, in German we have a saying, nothing lives longer than a temporary solution. Yes, I think I've heard that. Deputzi, thank you for joining from Germany, maybe. Here we're talking about persistence, but that idea, and in that, going back to that company, the minimum that you could get like a small database, but the minimum offering was a leader follower pair. And actually that's in that demo. The smallest you could get is a leader follower pair, because they didn't want to have to be measuring and going back and looking at, is it the right size for it to be, mission critical. They didn't want to have to do that. Eventually, everything is going to be mission critical at some point, right? If it survives. So this idea of thinking about what's on the menu, how do you handle databases on the menu? Right now, where I'm at, I don't do a whole lot outside. I'm not persisting a whole lot. So today, I'm going to use Redis Cloud, managed service. They have a free tier, and that's what I'm going to do. I'm not going to worry about how many regions it's in. I'm not going to worry about active, anything yet. But I could, right, eventually, right, because here, there's interesting ways that we can tackle it. So I'm going to ask you this. I'm going to show you this, and then I'm going to ask you the question. I think you have a similar background. These are the things that I put on the menu. The way that I set up my infrastructure, as the platform operator for Deshaun Cloud here. These are the things that I put on the menu. These are the things that I'm going to support in whatever platform I'm putting together on these Raspberry Pis. And you're going to see Gemfire, because Gemfire, I can make active. I can do interesting things. It's Kubernetes native. It's very comfortable. It's a comfortable offering. The other thing is Redis. Now, the Redis OSS can't do active, but we have other things that we can do. So give me some of your ideas, of your opinions on running databases in Kubernetes, cloud native databases, cloud native persistence. Do you have any thoughts?
My thoughts on running databases ourselves in the clusters are a little bit different. I'm a big believer in managed services myself too, because it goes back to the value line that we used to talk about, Sean. What are you good at and what can be the best value that you can bring to the table? So that's where I feel like when you mentioned the managed service of Redis, similarly, almost every cloud has their own managed services for almost all the databases these days, right? So being able to, unless it's price prohibitive, I would love to see if we can adopt one of those because of a few things, right? One of the key things that I talk about is, I think about when I'm developing anything, is the fact that can I migrate between different versions of the database, right? For any reason. When I say versions, I say you start with a single region, then you go multi-region, you go, replication, whatever else, right? The databases that are offered as managed services on the clouds, for example, or even the database companies themselves, they allow you to adopt their higher tier versions in incremental way. And that's how I look at it also, because can I start small and then pretty much crawl, walk, run? Can I crawl, make sure that all the functionality is working, can build it in a way that I should be able to walk and run. Don't put yourself into a corner where you can't walk and run, but make sure you're building it incremental. That's my approach whenever I'm building applications.
That makes sense to me, right? Here's a quick little story. I went from on-prem databases, managed, self-managed, standing up my own databases. And I assumed that, hey, I'm moving to Google and their database will stay up more than mine. Of course it will. Of course they're better at managing. It's Google and it's a managed service. The problem was they're doing maintenance. And if you don't read the SLAs, if you don't read those, they're doing maintenance. They're trying to keep things patched.
Yep.
And sometimes their schedule is more important than yours, right? Unless you're at a certain tier, that whatever $100 a month database, I didn't really have any say in when it was going to be patched or updated.
True.
And you have some configs that you can check. You could also say, don't upgrade me, and deal with those consequences. But one of the things that I realized is like, their SLAs are not mine, right? They don't match. So I had this case where the database was getting maintenance at a reasonable time, like a 9 p.m. In America, reasonable time, but our investors,
work for you.
It wasn't reasonable for the investors of our
Yes.
little startup. They're like, hey, why are things broken?
Yep.
So we start to...
It's a balance. And I think one of the things that you probably have talked about multiple times and, is the fact that build your applications in a way that is flexible enough to be able to connect to a local database or a remote database, right? Building that flexibility is important because now you might grow big enough. Like you're always assume that you are going to go big enough that people like the Googles of the world will care for you, right? As you said, am I big enough for them to care for me? You're like, probably yes, and that's what you want to assume because you never, as you said, never assume that you're not going to grow, right? So build your applications in such a way that there's clear separation, such that given a choice, you need to be able to easily move from a database to another database.
Yeah, this becomes. Wait, didn't I write it down? Like ability to move, right?
And I was actually talking to a friend of mine who was on the R&D side of Amazon Aurora DB the other day. And like, for example, Amazon themselves, just take one example of the cloud, right? AWS offers Postgres regular, MySQL regular, Postgres Aurora, MySQL Aurora, and then you can go into the Oracles of the world and MySQLs of the world, right? The Microsoft SQLs of the world. The fact that they just offer you all the choice, it's like you need to understand what do you need, right?
What's the difference here between Postgres and Postgres Aurora? What's the difference?
So what they do is, this is my understanding from talking to this person I talked about, like I mentioned, they take the core Postgres releases and then replace the storage engine and keep the database engine as is. So the storage engine is where storage and network storage and all of that, that's their secret sauce, if you will. AWS's secret sauce. That the regular Postgres and MySQL have local storage versus Aurora has their magical storage, whatever they call it, right? And they give you persistence across regions and replication across regions and all of that cool features. But then even just between MySQL and Postgres, right? MySQL, if you want pure bare SQL features, go with MySQL. Postgres introduces a lot of cool things, cool features over MySQL, and that gives you the features, but then that comes at a cost of speed. So if you want pure raw speed for simple SQL operations, go with MySQL. If you want to add features that are more than what MySQL offers, that's where you go for Postgres. And then when you want global persistence and all of that other cool features that Aurora brings into the mix, then you switch over to the Aurora tier. So it's like tiered approach of what you want, and what you're paying for, and what's the cost in terms of not only the dollar price, but the cost in terms of the performance.
I'm gonna
You need to keep track of both of those.
throw out a name here. I just hadn't got to it yet. Yugabyte.
Yep, our friends in Yugabyte.
Yep,
We've had a bunch of former Pivotal folks driving a lot of the key things at Yugabyte. So yeah, it's like they call it a cloud native database, right?
Yep. When you say Postgres, like I get it. Like when I reach for Postgres, my default is I reach for Yugabyte, but I don't normally reach for RDBMS. Normally I reach for Redis. Like I'm not going to worry about those kind of things. I can just kind of throw it in. But I want to throw out another name. I know there's some kind of like split. I don't know the politics or the history on the two, MySQL, MariaDB. But I also...
So once again, MariaDB fits at the entry point, right, for a pure SQL database. Maria and MySQL are at the same level.
Yeah.
Right, from a feature perspective. Postgres or any Postgres derivative, right? It could be Postgres, pure Postgres. We have our own friends at Greenplum doing things. There's a whole lot of other providers who are basing their systems on the Postgres ecosystem. So those come right above it, like Yugabyte included, right? So, and then you start bringing in the beasts of the world, right? In the Oracle and Microsoft SQL and those kind of things. And this is purely from a SQL database perspective, but then the NoSQL world has its own flavors.
Yes. So let's go back to Demok's question. So RDS is Amazon, right?
So RDS from the 50,000 feet level is RDS is a system that provides databases for you. So RDS has all these databases that we talked about under its umbrella. So there is RDS MySQL, RDS Postgres, RDS Aurora Postgres, RDS Aurora MySQL. So all of these are RDS options.
Oh, look, they have MariaDB and MySQL.
MariaDB as well, yes. Okay. So in fact, from everything I know, I've read about these databases, MySQL, they bring Oracle's MySQL releases so that they don't miss out. They've never forked the MySQL database from Oracle. Instead, they take the releases of Oracle and then replace the engine, the storage engine underneath it. They don't manipulate the MySQL, from what I heard.
So are these, we said Aurora. Is Aurora the umbrella for all these, or is that something different?
No, Aurora is the versions of Postgres and MySQL. Within Aurora, there's Postgres and MySQL, where it is that Amazon's flavor of each of these databases with their storage engine replaced, but their database engine is the same.
All right. So these other RDS,
that's pure.
Okay.
Just bring in, compile it, and keep it in there.
All right.
They provide that as a managed service.
Awesome. So, yeah. One of the other things, we won't stick on this for too long. One of the other things that I've done and seen is like if I've got a database, like the final persistence. I don't know what I would call it, but like, yeah. But then I'd have some other like Rabbit.
Yep.
Or Redis. What I was doing, so, and this is, customer actually. The idea here was the same customer that had the leader follower pair. So I want to go over this use case. And I already have these slides. I know, I'm going to draw it. This customer and this model I love. So by default, you get a leader follower pair. And this is it when you're doing it internally, right? They're doing this. This is, Cloud Foundry, create service, leader. So what this did, if you're offering these databases to your teams, these were on VMs. The reason they were doing it this way is because they were a company that was always going to take patches. At whatever time of the day, whenever things came out, they cared about the difference between T release to T production. Like, how long does it take to get from, hey, we've just released a new stem cell for MySQL, or a new version or whatever. How long does it take for you to get that into production? Because if there was a CVE, you can either spend time and analyze and go through all the steps like, oh, do we need to patch today or tomorrow? You could put that as a part of your workflow, or you could just build a system where you're going to take the updates. You're not going to set any other time aside. You're going to take the updates. You're going to read the release notes. And you're going to say, yes, I can take this. And you're going to have a system where, hey, we did it in our tinderbox, we did it in our dev, we did it in our stage, and we've done this release so that this time from T release, T production, we're measuring it in hours, not days.
And the systems that we have today are ready for that.
They are.
That's the key, because gone are those days when we had to plan 3 months of upgrade cycles.
Yeah.
So thankfully, we've all been there, and luckily not as much as the generations before us. But that's Daniel mentions Comcast, and Comcast was a good example for us back in the days where they started bringing these upgrade cycles from 3 months down to 3 weeks or 4 weeks or something like that. Like, how and what and all that. It's a whole different topic to talk about on another day. But yeah, that's the fact that we can do that release to production in hours. And then one command or few commands rather than going into every server and running those patches.
Now, one of the magic things is people make mistakes, right? Where did I put it? I'm going to make mistakes, right? And people are people, and sometimes the release engineers make mistakes too. And oh, hey, you know what? We gave you a release, and that was broken. Roll back. We're not going to have a fix for it yet. The other part of, in order to do this with confidence, you have to be able to roll back. You have to have a system in order to do that. So this thing, hours not days, taking upgrades in production. If I'm going to take an upgrade here, the system automatically says, oh, now this one becomes where we write, and this becomes the follower, and then we upgrade this one, and then this one becomes the primary, and this becomes the secondary, right? And it just switches. So you're still going to have a little gap there, right? As it fails over, there's seconds, at a minute, hopefully it's seconds, but maybe a couple of minutes. So what they did was, in order to get that higher SLA, where those minutes that might be at 9 p.m., but it also might be at 9 a.m. They didn't want to have to schedule those things. Just when it comes, it does. When the test pass, it goes, keep going. So what they offered was this buffered queue, or this prefetch, or I don't know what you'd say, this right behind
cache
opportunity, to cache. So that the main thing was, it's not going to fix all the problems, but the main thing was that the data was coming into here first. Just get the data. And then from there, it would write to whoever was the primary.
Caching strategy is a very, very critical part of any application development. And because that actually immediately separates your concern. As an application developer, I'm going to write to my cache, and that's going to be my first worry. And then either yourself at a later point or someone else is going to worry about how am I going to synchronize that cache with the database.
Yeah. So we have some level set here. We have some ways of thinking about things, whether you're on VMs or Kubernetes. These are just some patterns. What is the
Talking about all these, Dishan,
Yeah.
one thing that I would kind of suggest, or maybe we should do at a later date, is if we are building a brand new application in today's world, what are the 10, 15 things that is a must have from a design perspective? Let's do that and say, hey, caching, what kind of persistence we need to have, what kind of libraries we're going to use for persistence, all these things. It's that'll be an amazing discussion to have, so that we can all say, I'm building a brand new application. I'm just going to bring, as you said, the menu. I love the fact that you had the menu there.
Yep.
What is it that across the board for a brand new application, multi-tier application, what would be the things that you would start with?
Well, let me ask you this. I'm just getting started. This is home lab. I have some interesting things. Looking at this list, what's missing from the menu? Or do you have any questions about the menu? If you're a developer and you're looking at like, hey, like, give me an understanding of like what's on your platform. If you're picky like that and you've got opinions, what else do you expect to see on a menu?
The packaging aspect is something that, have you separated that? When I say packaging aspect, like, are you thinking to use CRaC, or like how about anything related to Growl?
Yeah, everything is Growl.
Okay, so everything is Growl.
This is Raspberry Pis. I've got a lot of nodes, but they've only got 512 megabytes on them.
Do you know if CRaC has some sort of support for Growl these days, or?
Yeah, it does.
Okay, I've not seen that in other. Okay.
Yeah, so
I should.
Yeah, so let's talk about that. Right, the CRaC has this the builder.
Yeah.
And that inside of that builder is the different build packs.
Yes.
So CRaC, as the Kubernetes service that runs those build packs, is just providing the builders that have build packs. So I can put in my COBOL build pack. Right, and of course my cloud native COBOL build pack will be running on my CRaC.
I think you might want to introduce CNB there, by meaning what is a build pack, like cloud native build packs. And
so,
if people don't know, go to buildpacks.io. That's the place where you want to go to start your build packs journey.
Yes. So that's what I did. That build pack journey. There is a nice little doc here that tells you how to build your own.
Build an app.
Create a build pack.
Yep.
So let's touch on that, right? I even say it up here, like this build packs is kind of my jam. Like this is something that I do.
Yes.
I built this COBOL build pack. Back during the pandemic, New Jersey said, hey, there's not enough COBOL developers. We can't get your checks out. So I built that as an experiment to learn this new build pack. And it was awesome, right? Like that experience, this document, this tutorial provided me so much value in understanding build packs and the value of build packs. So what are build packs? And I've said it here a few times already, here meaning on my streams, like Docker file. Let's do it the right way. Friends don't let friends. Like this is something here, and we've talked about it where it's like,
love that.
Here's what happens. You've got more than one repository, right? Most people are not working in the monolith. I don't know how that comes up. Most people are not working in the mono repo. And even if you are working in the mono repo, all of your different applications, this is where my pain point in my scar tissue was, is I had a bunch of these Docker files. Let me make this bigger. I had a bunch of these Docker files for each one of these projects. And when a new release came out, because of my role, like nobody else was doing that maintenance, but because of where I sat on the team, when a new CVE came out or a new version or a new Spring Boot version or new whatever it was, what I was doing was I was having to go in and touch all of these Docker files because I didn't want to let a CVE go to production at all. I didn't want that. I cared about that. So the least I could do was patch things as often and as fast as possible. I kind of still had this mentality, but
and you had
just
to
kept
have
coming.
You had to have Docker files individually for each of your projects.
Yeah, so if there was a change, if there's a new Spring Boot version or a new Java version or a new base OS image, I was having to go and touch hundreds of these Docker files.
Yep.
And it just wears me out just thinking about it. So along comes, it was already there, this pain. Getting rid of this pain of having to manage Docker files was so good. When I finally took those projects that we were kind of building and doing all the things ourselves, when we finally went and landed on Cloud Foundry, just the time and maintenance around the Docker files was massive.
And
it was massive.
And even back then, we were still on V2 version V2 of the Buildpacks. So Buildpacks were not the powerful Buildpacks that they are today.
Yeah.
So even that gave you so much relief.
So what does a build pack, right? What is a build pack? A build pack is somebody has two things. Let's do it like this.
At a higher level, right? Would you agree that build packs are systems that has everything that you need to run your application?
Yep.
So build packs bring everything. You bring your application as a developer.
Right. So inside of a build pack,
Detect build package, I think.
Nope. These are like the two phases, right?
Okay. Yeah.
It has the detect phase,
Mm-hmm.
and then it has the build phase. So if I take a build pack, and let's go to this one. I take a build pack. I think it's in here. I have a detect. So what this build pack does is says, hey, in this directory, are there any COBOL files? If there are COBOL files in the directory, cool, count me in. Count me in. I will be included. I will do some work for those COBOL files.
I'm going to contribute to the build.
I'm going to contribute to the build. But I could have in the same project, I could have multiple build packs available. And you put those build packs in order, right? And just the examples. I've made it clear that when I start, what's on my menu, the only build packs I'm going to have are Java. Well, and Java and the things that are included in Java. Certificates, certs, GRUL. What are the others? I don't remember the names. But just different KVM versions. And there's a couple more, but the things are in the Java build pack. And the Java builder is made up of multiple build packs that are going to do some different interesting things. But at your company, you might have more than Java. So your builder might have a Java. It might have
Python.
.NET. Yeah. Python. Ruby. COBOL. I'm missing one. What was the other one?
Golang.
Yep. There's one more that we use a lot. Let's go look. Right. So we have implementations over here. Open source implementation. Oh yeah, Node. That was the other one. And because I know that Josh is on vacation, I'm going to say PHP. Right, so you have all these different languages.
He'll still hear you, by the way.
Don't say it 3 times. So I can have this organization, I can have this path to production, and I can have a consistent way of delivering where I don't need to maintain Docker files. So on this platform, these Docker files, the detect phase, you can imagine. So, one of the things we might have over here is Maven and Gradle, right? The detect phase just says, hey, I will be included. And it tells the builder, says, I will be included, I will participate. But the next thing is it's got some steps. It says, hey, I'm going to be included, and this is what I'm going to do inside of this build, inside of this process. These are the instructions around what I'm going to do and how I'm going to do my job, but it's included in that build pack. And I can have multiple build packs included in a builder, and I can have builder of builders, sort of, right? This is a composite build pack. I can have a builder with composite build packs.
But from a practical perspective, Deshaun, I think the way that you can explain about build packs for me in a simple mind is I need a place to build my application. I need the ingredients to build an application, right? So this K-Pack system, what it does is it says, okay, what is the image of what is the Docker image that I'm going to use as the place to build my applications? So I need a pristine, updated, patched image for the OS that I'm going to use as a build container. And then we all remember our Docker files, and we all started our Docker files from some particular state of the image, right? We take the base image, right? So what is the base image that I take for every one of these applications? The Java application, .NET, Python, Ruby, all of that. So I need a collection of all the base images. So those are the two key ingredients that will make this build system, right? I need a place to build. I need the base images to build.
Yep.
And now when we have that, I don't need to worry about Docker files at all. I have the build packs doing all the magic, saying, take these base images, use your application, bring that on top, overlay that on top of the base images, and then build your image in the builder instance. That's pretty much it.
Cool. Am I doing that right? So then build packs, that's how I'm going to go. So like if I'm running a platform and I am saying like, hey, friend, Anand, yeah, go ahead and bring your repositories to my platform. Oh, yeah, go ahead, bring your Docker files to my platform. Really? Like, who's going to allow that? Like, so, and I say that because like, where are they getting these Docker files? Are they experts in these Docker files? Who's supporting those Docker files? Right? All of those questions come up because you can imagine how many ways that can go wrong, right? And if you're doing it wrong, how many other businesses are you affecting? If you're letting some team or even, vendor build Docker files, there's
minimizing
concerns.
human intervention. Yeah, minimizing human interactions in the build process.
We want to reduce risk. So by making on my platform, by saying Buildpacks is the only way that you get to deliver OCI images to my platform. I can put in my own certs. I can do my own I can put my own certs in there. So I have mutual TLS. I can do a lot of interesting things to make sure that my platform is protected. I got to protect these $15 Raspberry Pis. So in order to do that, and I got to make sure that I don't have neighbors messing up neighbors. The goal here, like one of these visions I have is for people that subscribe to my Twitch or whatever, I'm going to let them give me a repository, right? I'm going to let them just, hey, like, Deshaun, or we're doing JavaScript, right? Like, just point me to your org, where you've got your open source stuff. It's got to be all public so everybody else can see it. But just point me to your org, and I will do all the deployment things. And I'm going to give you a contract for these are you tell me which version you want. You tell me how you want it scaled, but I'll deploy your stuff to my cloud. And I'm just trying to like think through this. Like, what is this? Just like our customers have done, just like engineers are doing, the people I'm trying to help out. Meme builder, here we come. Yes. Pink Emma, I can't wait. So this is the way I think about things. And in order to protect me in the platform, these are some of those conventions. These are some of those topics. So I hope that we can always come back to this, right? The question was like, hey, what about persistence? How do we handle that? We talked about a couple of things. And then, we skipped over here. What we're working on right now is like, I'm doing everything with Buildpacks. So I was asking you on the menu, was there anything else on the menu that we're missing?
Nothing strikes at me, but I think that's where we should probably look at saying when I these days, like say when I say when I go to start.spring.io and start adding those ingredients for my initial Spring app, what are the minimum things that we should definitely bring, right? And before even we start our own logic, before even we start our own application build out, what are the minimum things that I should have ready before? Like that's what I want to have a clear mindset for any developer.
Yep. So here's my thoughts, and this is what I draw. Like if you're taking something, whatever it is, to production. Icon, welcome in. Good to see you. If you're taking something to production, there's some things that I think that you want. I think that as a developer, you should expect logs.
Yep.
Metrics.
Yep.
Tracing. I think there's another box here, but I don't know how to do that box. But I think there's like an interface. I think you want control. You want to be able to say you want GitOps, right? So that's my default. That's what I would want. I think the other thing is you want to be able to define your own thresholds.
When you say thresholds, what are we talking about? Well, alerting. Okay.
So we're deploying this YouTube listener, this webhook listener. I expect that to start up in less than a second. If the startup time takes longer than a second, I want to be alerted. But I should have some way of defining those thresholds. Like if all of these thresholds are good, don't call me. It's fine. Like, and this is kind of like how we get into that SRE mindset, right? Or right, like as a platform provider, I don't want to have to guess at how your apps should be behaving. If you're telling me that your app should have 95% consumption of the heap, your app should be operating in that area, then great. I will trust you. You're the app owner. I'll alert you if it goes outside of that or if it falls below, right? Because sometimes there's an optimum buffer queue. There's an optimum heap size. Like, oh, if my garbage collection pulls me down here, something is wrong, right? The one that always sticks with me is like, if Amazon expects that there's going to be some number of abandoned shopping carts during a day, per hour, per minute, or whatever, like people are going to come in, they're not logged in, and they're going to put stuff in their shopping cart, and then they're going to abandon it. They're not going to log in. They know there's a threshold there. If that number all of a sudden climbs and gets out of range, something's wrong. But on the other side, if they're not seeing abandoned shopping carts, what's wrong? There is some range that they know of years of
both the higher and the lower.
That we should be operating in this. This is the range that we're happy in. If it goes below here, something is wrong. So that being able to define for your app, having some way, I don't know what that looks like yet, but I'm working on it. I've seen it. But then having a place to go and get this, being able to say, hey, yeah, alert me at this email or this Slack or whatever. But I want to be able to go and find my logs, metrics, and tracing. That's it. Is there anything else that you expect from a platform? Like, what are some other things that you would expect to see?
But then you're talking about a production post-deploy phase of your application. But
Here's what I
I'm
think.
also thinking from a developer perspective, saying, what are the tools and things that I must have as I build this, develop this app, right?
So one of those things, and I know I'm going off on tangents are okay, right? When we're doing this, I know that Backstage can give me a place where I can expose and show just about whatever I want, right? There are so many plugins that are available, but I think for most developers, and I'm gonna do Backstage here. Wouldn't it be nice if I had that accelerator? This is my expectation: is that if I'm gonna put requirements on you to run on my platform, I'm gonna give you a way of seeing those requirements. I'm gonna give you a way to like start.deshaun.cloud your way into it, but I'm gonna give you an accelerator that has all of those conventions, requirements in it. But I'm also gonna give you a CLI. And I'll tell you why. And this is just an opinion. So this CLI is going to enforce all of these rules. You don't have to use the CLI. In a lot of platform operations, it makes me feel funny. They're like, oh, well, developer has to run this CLI and this CLI and this CLI and this CLI before they go to production. So they've got a gate here, like right at the beginning, that says, oh, did you run all the things? Did you check all the boxes? Like, hey, you got your accelerator out, and then the first thing is, oh, you didn't put this file there, or you didn't do this. And they give them a list of things. I want to minimize that. Like, I can have requirements, but
more and more you package into that accelerator and remove the additional steps that the developer has to do before they pass the gate,
yeah,
it's better that you are.
Absolutely. So give them all the head start they need. Give them implementations for all that. And for me, I have to just maintain that base, that starter accelerator that has, here's the implementations. And because it's Backstage, I can have reasoning. I can be like, here's why we do this. Here's why we do this. Check this space for updates. But then I'm also going to give them a CLI. Like maybe they're upgrading from something. I'm going to give them a CLI that's going to allow them to do those conventions. Like maybe I didn't start from the accelerator, or maybe I'm refactoring and pulling something out from another package, and we're, pulling modules out. I'm going to give them a CLI that will allow them to do all of these things as well. But that same CLI is the thing that I can use. Oh, I'm going to back that one up. It's the same thing I can use on my pipeline. So there's consistency there. I'm not doing anything different on my pipeline than what you can do with that CLI. That's my concept, and I'll tell you why. We are familiar with start.spring.io. This is a way that we can go in and we can build a project, and I can pull things from the menu, but maybe I don't support these things. So what, maybe you did it too. I had companies forking the initializer and creating their own menu. Like, hey, we didn't support, in their company, they didn't support Redis. So why would you put it on the menu for your internal starter? They were trying to help their developers, know what's on the menu, give them a good thing, but then they were also injecting into those projects, right? We had this ability to go and actually deliver code. So what they were doing is they were also kind of injecting the naming conventions, and maybe they'll add a certificate or something. They're putting that into the initializer. Here's the problem with that. The initializer keeps on going. That project kept on going, and I did this with a lot of companies. There's still a lot of companies doing it. But they were doing a fork for their version. But then as initializer keeps on going, they are having to continue to pull down those changes and merge in those changes.
The upkeep is painful.
The upkeep is painful. And I did that, and I felt that pain. So then I switched to my Initializer++. So I just have this CLI that's going to do the same things. It's going to be like, hey, here's how we do our project name. Here's how we do our project description. Make sure that you're updated. Do those conventions. as a CLI. You don't have to go to the starter. And that's easier for me to maintain. It's easier for me to distribute. And I can also do things like upgrades if I choose. So that's a little bit of background. These are my thoughts, opinions. And I think
one of the things that I was trying to visualize recently, and I've talked about it as well, is building like a dynamic. Your CLI can be seen as a dynamic initializer, pretty much.
Yes.
And then if we now add our latest technology, things that are available, like using generative AI to use and say, hey, instead of upkeeping your CLI, what I was visualizing was if I can add on the Spring Framework and Spring Boot documentation as part of the, hopefully we'll talk a lot more about it in the coming days, is how can I bring my latest documentation for every different version of Spring Framework and Spring Boot into the mix and have AI-driven initializers where we can say, build me a project that uses X version of Spring Framework and Y version of Spring Boot and includes A, B, and C components. And that gives you a powerful way of saying, my company supports these versions of these tools, and I'm going to use that.
So you're absolutely on the right track. So our friend Mark Pollock, not only he's kind of the initial creator of these accelerators and that concept, but also of Spring CLI, the Spring CLI project, and the father of the Spring AI project. Like he's doing amazing things. He's out there. He has the ideas in his head, and he's had them for years, and he's now out there implementing. And now these are, they've come out of the experimental state, and now they're out there available to use. So what I'm doing, I had this initializer, but we have this Spring CLI that actually can act as like a base implementation. So I don't have to do all the things. All that I need to do, and this is something that will probably not in 2023, I'll probably get to it later, is take the things that I'm doing in my CLI and I can make them into a project.
Which is more a derivative of the Spring CLI project.
The Spring CLI will actually pull in my functions, my capabilities, but I just use that. So I don't have to build the Spring CLI. I can just kind of, hey, here's my features, my capabilities, and I can pull it in. And
almost
Spring
like
CLI,
a mini accelerator for the CLI.
Yes. So Spring AI actually does that. We have that type of capability for Azure. Like there's this new way of doing things. And I'll take it one step further because it's top of mind. This Spring CLI, we have a lot of, the Spring ecosystem is massive. Your company might have their own Spring Boot starters. Your company might have their own Spring Boot starters. And if you're a vendor partner of ours in this ecosystem, we get asked all the time, like, hey, can I put my Spring Boot starter over here? Can I get mine in the list on the menu? And this menu is not for that. This menu is education, easy start, like consistency, but it's kind of like a MVP, like, hey, here's how you can go. And we don't give you 1,000 options for everything. We kind of give you one option to implement a pattern or a thing.
How can you do that?
But now,
like more of a model.
Let's think of Yugabyte. Since we were talking about, let's think of Yugabyte, and me, my project. I can use the Spring CLI. I can set up this project as a way of adding my Spring Boot starters. So you want to ride the ride, you got to have my Spring Boot starter that's going to do telemetry or whatever it is. Like, I can make that into a project and I can get all of this upstream help on the CLI. I get all these great patterns, but then I can also use all the other projects that are out there. So I can say, hey, I want to add the Yugabyte starter. Here's a way that I can do it. Yugabyte, and they may be doing it already, but they can just create this project that allows somebody that has Spring CLI to go and, oh, I would like access to the Yugabyte starters. And they might have different versions of their starters for different situations. So this is a way and this is top of mind because I'm going to be having a meeting about this later with Mark Paula. This is a way for vendors to bring their Spring Boot starters a little bit closer and more better integrated with the ecosystem.
Basically bring the base and overlay multiple different things as projects on top of your base project that you downloaded.
So now, friend, look at this. You have these starters. You have these starters that you've worked on. We could do the same thing. We could take and make a project that gives access to your Spring Boot starters. And I'll show you exactly what that looks like. So just think about this with me. Follow me. We're training into the AI conversation. Spring project, Spring AI. And I want to go to the documentation. And I want you to see what it looks like. I'm going to scroll down because I just want to
This is the perfect example of using Spring CLI for me.
Right? So, hey, Spring Boot new AI. It can do the things. We can create these projects that are auto-wired for, they're initialized, but we're using the Spring CLI. But now down here, I can add these other catalogs. So I can have a bunch of project catalogs included. Hey, hello, Cursed Snake. Welcome. Appreciate you being here. Awesome. I could have a bunch of these projects here. And one of those could be yours, right? Clue to solve. That's got a bunch of other starters. So this is a way where they don't have to remember URLs. They can get it. They don't have to remember. Oh, just realized you fixed your audio levels. Thank you. Thank you so much. Yes, Cursed Snake. Yeah, there you are. We're doing stuff. So this is an option. Mm-hmm. Just like it's an option for a bunch of folks in the ecosystem. They can come in and they could provide a project catalog for the things that they wish, they would like to see here. But this, again, different kind of objectives. But if you're trying to get your projects easier access, this is an option, is by creating a project catalog to bring those starters, for example, and others. It's not just about starters. It could be best practices, right? It could be
guardrails,
bootstraps, guardrails, or hello world implementations, right? It could be many things. But now we've got these tools, again, to make our jobs easier. The Spring team continues to work on these amazing ideas. And you went there already, right? Your head already went there. The nice thing is 99 times out of 100, the Spring team is miles ahead of wherever my head is going, and it's already there. Whenever I found myself wouldn't it be nice to have something like this? I literally go to the Spring team, and this is one part why I love my job. I go over to the Spring team, I go over to spring.io, and 99 times out of 100, if I've thought through my idea, it exists in one of these projects. So when I stray off of that, when I feel I need to implement this crazy new thing, that's when I should get nervous. It's probably already done. For most of the things that I'm doing.
It's not a bad idea. Talking about that, it's probably not a bad idea for any Spring developer to, once in a while, put a cadence in your schedule to go into the Spring website, spring.io, look at the projects, look at what they have latest.
Right. So this
just running through the list because there's a lot happening. Amazing minds are working on it. So definitely that's something that.
So this is the thing. So we do a show, Spring Office Hours, at 2:30 Central. And one of the things that we always do is we go to calendar.spring.io. A lot of people don't know about this. Look at here. Carlos says, hey, it'd be interesting to add support for other Hugging Faces LLMs to that catalog. Many ideas come to mind. Yes, Carlos, again.
Carlos, that's in the works.
Yep, the Spring
Not
team is
only
way ahead.
that, if you're talking about the Clue to Solve catalog that you saw there, yes, those are things in the works, Carlos. So uh, once I introduce them, please, feel free to contribute as well. I know
Yeah.
a lot of you have ideas. So the way I'm pushing those in my set of catalogs are, I've initially started based on need, but now we have a couple of things in the works, like the Google starter and OpenAI starter, as well as the Hugging Face. Like I'm sorry to
No.
go on a tangent here, but like recently I started learning more and more about Hugging Face's inference endpoints, and it's amazing. Like, first of all, Hugging Face has so many models available, and then they made it very, very easy to run those models on their own inference endpoint. Just a couple of clicks, and then you have a way to run that model run that model on Hugging Face. And they have a standard API. In fact, coincidentally, yesterday I was downloading the API spec and then trying to see how quickly I can start a starter, if you will, to be able to say I can start hitting those Hugging Face endpoints through the Java starter. So yeah, it's in the works, Carlos. So be on the lookout, and then please join and help by contributing more to it.
So
PRs are welcome on any of these things.
yeah. So for everybody, we're happy that you're here. I'm Sean, Spring Developer Advocate. Anand's here. Say hi. Tell us where you're joining from. These are the things that we're going to get into, but I don't have a timeline. Questions are always welcome. Tangents are absolutely okay. This is kind of the default things that I talked about: Spring, Raspberry Pis, Kubernetes, Buildpacks, getting to production. But yeah, I'm going to make mistakes. Keep me honest. Like, we're having a conversation. I want it to be a safe place. There was a time in my career where it felt like I didn't have somebody to ask questions to. I always felt like, oh, I should know this, and who else is going to know this? And I was afraid to ask
I
questions.
think that has changed though, Ishan. I think the way we look at it now is, can we ask a question with instead of two? Because now we'll all learn together.
Yes.
That's the model that really works, because that's what we learned back in the days, like pair programming. Like, we didn't expect my pair programmer to know everything.
Yep.
The other way around as well. We work together, we learn together, we implemented and deployed together.
And this is what we're doing right now. Like,
Yes.
when we do these things together, not only most of the time we're going to finish faster, but then also the things that we learn when we're doing it together, again, this is the way I learn, it's always stickier. Like, the things that I learn, the things that I do when I'm with somebody, when I'm with a pair or other, like, those things become stickier. They mean more. They stay in my head better. So that's why I like this. Carlos says, PR on the way.
Thank you, Carlos.
I love that.
And let's reach out later on the side.
What's your contact info?
I will. LinkedIn is good. Anand at like HONNUANAND, my LinkedIn profile. Let me send you my LinkedIn profile. Give me 1 second.
Yeah, send that. We'll get that out there.
Sure.
But yeah, like, we're here. But I'm going to put your LinkedIn. And then we'll keep on going. So we're doing stuff. Again, questions are always welcome. But I had kind of an idea of what I wanted to talk about today. I wanted to kind of connect this Spring Boot to some of the YouTube starters that we saw. I want to connect those things. So I'm going to put this here. I'm going to put it in the chat. I'll put it up. But then I'm going to put it here so that we know for later.
And I'll also throw in the Discord channel for Clue to Solve, where we discuss everything around the open source projects that we have. If you can throw that in there as well.
Do you have a URL for that one? Oh,
I sent it to you.
Hello, come on. Computers, all right?
So,
See this?
Carlos and anyone else, please feel free to join the Discord, and then we can definitely collaborate and build more cool stuff together.
Fantastic. So here we are. We're doing stuff. I'm here with my good friend, and we're just gonna work through some things. All right, we're gonna try to pair, learn some things, think out loud. But we're here for you. You have a question about anything? Yeah, we're here to help. But the last thing is like the cadence of going and looking like what's new. That's what we do here. Spring Office Hours, springofficehours.io to see when the shows are. Join us, because one of the things that we do is we always look at the calendar. So you can see like what things have changed. And if you're heavy on Spring State Machine, which is one of those things that's on my mind I want to get to. If you're heavy on Spring State Machine and that's something, did you know that there's a new release out? It's been out for over a week, 2 weeks. Maybe it's time to upgrade. Maybe you should understand what's in it. And if you can go to calendar.spring.io, we kind of just like do the high level, there's new stuff. But you can also, if you're interested, you can go and see exactly what's happened, like what's in there, what's in that release. So this is just a good practice. Just like you said, it's a good practice to kind of go and review like what's on the menu. Are we on the latest and greatest? Are we patched? Are there issues? Did our GitHub issue, did it get closed yet? Right? This is just a good idea. It's a good practice, 100%. So what we try to do at Spring Office Hours is like, put that out there. Remind people like, hey, there's new stuff coming all the time. Are you aware of it? Would you like to know more? And yeah, and again, just like this, ask questions, answer questions. Here we go. So thank you for that. Let's go. What I did, let me get you caught up. We just been doing this on the stream, and right, we've been here for an hour. Haven't done much coding yet, but that's fine. Because what we're doing, we talked about the menu. We're feeling pretty comfortable with that. I was building this YouTube listener. This listener, this idea, hey, here's YouTube. And when I update something at YouTube, let me go to the repo. If you want to play along, again, I'm doing everything out in the public. This is the project. I should put some pictures in here to make, just like I'm drawing, I should probably just copy these pictures in. I put the documentation here. If you upload a video, you update a video title, or you update a video description, you will get this Atom XML, this information about that video. So we figured out how to connect. The URL here is actually wrong. The one that they have in the documentation, you have to put an XML in here. You have to have /XML. And so while we're doing the stream, we're like, oh yeah, we're doing all this stuff. And it wasn't working. We're like, what's going on? Well, Jonas found this blog that found the answer. So after the stream that we wrapped up on Friday and it wasn't working, we're like, oh, I don't know. I wish it would have been nice if it had worked, because now that we're done with all of our code. After the stream on Saturday morning, Jonas, one of the folks from the audience, he's like, hey, try this. I found this blog. Like, I'm out coaching basketball. I get this message and I'm like, let's take a look. I updated the subscription for my phone and it worked. Like, community helping community, people helping people. That was awesome for me. It was super duper exciting for me because, hey, now it works. And we figured it out. You know what I didn't do? I didn't go and issue a PR for these docs. Maybe I should do that. Right? If I'm being nice, I should do that. But it needs a /XML in here. That's the difference. So anyways, we figured that out. And now all that I was doing was when I get one of those elements, it was just cool to just like show it. So right now this application is running on my Mac here. So let's go into it Do I have another terminal? So I do this to kind of pull up K9s, cdfun javagrunt.com. Let's go into that project and let's make sure we're on the right Kubernetes cluster. I am. K3D Juice is my Mac. So yeah, just fun. Like I'm running the stream. I've got my IDEs open, but I also have Kubernetes running and it's serving stuff, right? So one of the things I did yesterday was I was trying to like step towards this model, stepping towards this model of, hey, when you get to production, you should be able to find your logs, metrics, and tracing. And I started with tracing. I'm trying to get closer. I'm following Jonathan Ivanov's tea house. I want to be able to do all the things that Jonathan's from the Spring team focused on micrometer and observability. He's got this wonderful project that gives you kind of a sense of what can you do, what should you be doing, and he gives you all the bells and whistles. So your project gets deployed. You've got add miner, toxi proxies, so you can inject pauses and stuff. Prometheus to capture metrics, Grafana to show your dashboards, but he gives you the examples of all of these things. The alerting and sending out emails and alerts, a place for your logs, all the things are included. So I'm trying to like give you all those things, give myself all those things. I'm trying to be nice to my future self. So I'm building up this platform where I can take these projects, and this is what I'm using as my guidance, Jonathan's work, because I think Jonathan's cool. And yeah, and these are cool topics. These are things that you're dealing with. Like, how do I find the bug, in the thing that's 3 services away? Well, if you've got tracing, you can identify that. So that's where we're going. So yesterday, here's another thing. There's this idea where I've got a cluster, and inside that cluster, I've got a tenant. So in my cluster right now, I've got Deshaun-io is a tenant and javagrunt.com is a tenant. So this is where I asked the audience to hit this URL, https://intro.deshaun.io. Somebody please hit that URL. Oops. Somebody hit that URL. Oops.
I'm sorry.
Oh yeah, intro.deshaun. So somebody hit that URL, it scaled up. So that service was deployed to this is my daily driver. I'm taking production traffic. Intro.deshaun.io comes to this machine that I'm doing my streaming from, that I'm running Kubernetes, and I have all the things running here. But it scales to 0. When nobody's asking, when nothing's happening on those services, they disappear. So there was a couple of requests there. The window says, oh, there's no more requests. Let me scale back down. So you can have those resources back. Cool. So the same thing with this project that we built is this JavaGrunt YouTube listeners are going to do the same thing. Scale up, scale down. But what do you want? Initially, I was thinking that I would have a Zipkin instance. Let me do it this way. I was thinking on a per cluster, and this is the decision I made yesterday. I decided to switch from a per cluster to a per tenant. And here's why. I was already doing it, or I'd kind of like, I use Grafana, I use Cloudflare. Cloudflare D to be exact. In this cluster, initially I had one Cloudflare D that had to know about all the different tenants, and I had to set up routes for all the different tenants. But last week I said, hey, you know what? If I'm going to be able to move projects around across these different clusters, Ooh, not that one. I have this ability, and I already showed it. I won't take the time to do it right now. Where I could move Java Grunt, or I could deploy Java Grunt to another cluster just by copying this file. Because everything that Java Grunt needs is inside of that tenant information. So it's got its own cloud. Java Grunt has its own Cloudflare config, its own routes. It has its own Zipkin. So the Java Grunt traces are going to Java Grunt's open Zipkin. So that's what I got deployed, and we kicked through that yesterday. But now, instead of having a per cluster, I've moved to this per tenant approach. So here we are. And my tenant right now only has Zipkin. We'll work on the others. And I'm trying to like move it forward a little bit. So I put in an example of one of the other concepts that came up in the stream yesterday was like, the Cloudflare D setup is a platform concern, right? I'm setting up the ingress. You shouldn't even know that there's Cloudflare D involved. You shouldn't care. You should just know that when you deploy your stuff to my platform, that you're going to get traffic. You're going to get the production traffic based on, conversation, based on the contract. So one of the other things is like, if you add, what we did here is I added YouTube listener. But I'm the platform person. Do I need to care about your routes? Should that be my concern? How do I get that route? What might be a better idea would be to just say, hey, set up routes for anything at javagrunt.com. If you're my customer, I'm going to set up anything at javagrunt.com. I'm going to forward it to something like Spring Cloud Gateway. So that you can control which things need routes, which things need to answer the call. Then I can just say, hey, I'm going to pass all the traffic that comes in here to you. You've got Spring Cloud Gateway. You can decide what, but I'm going to handle all of the, and maybe it's just one. Maybe I make it so it's just like one URL, so then I don't have to deal with one cert. And I just say like www.javagrunt.com. That's your public facing, and you get a cert for it. Or maybe it's just javagrunt.com. And then you handle everything else after that. But then the contract would be that you would have a gateway or something that's answering all of those calls. But the other piece is, if I do it that way, then your contract with me, or the tenant contract, is that Flux repository right now, right? But you've got flexibility where you can control, hey, I've got a gateway, or maybe you're just sending all the traffic to the listener, whatever it is, but you've got this ability to configure things. If I put, Zipkin at a consistent place for all the tenants, fantastic, right? If I've got policies in place that say something coming from the JavaGrunt namespace can't call to Zipkin in the other namespace. If I do those kinds of things, I can have this nice little playground, right? Trying to implement those things where it's just, I want to get back to this. Here's my source code. Run it on the cloud for me. I don't care. Run it on the Raspberry Pi for me. I don't care how. But it can't just run. There's got to be some value given back. So on these Raspberry Pis, I want to be able to give you your logs, your metrics. I'm going to give you your SSL certs, etc. Yeah, but there's going to be some convention, some contracts. We got to figure out what that contract is. We're working on it. But right now, I'm gonna roll this back because I don't want to accidentally push that. Let's take a look at Git status. Right, there's nothing else. So that's the platform side. I'm gonna turn my hat around, and now I'm a JavaGrunt tenant. And I've got some changes that I've been working on. What I did was, instead of just logging, let me go and look here. It's not up. Instead of just logging that event, maybe I want to capture it. I want to capture the event data, and I'll do something with it later. So I added Redis. So let's take a look. These are right now it's version, let's go look. It's version 6 is in production, I believe. So we can go to YouTube-listener. I think I moved the docs. I hope I moved the docs. I didn't move the docs. So I got a couple of changes. So the problem here is I moved the docs to the root. Let's just push this out. No, let's talk about it first. I pushed out some changes. I made some changes. Here I said, hey, I'm going to use Spring Data Redis Reactive. Do I need that? I don't think I do. But I added Redis. I added the Redis test container because the change that I want to make is I moved the API. I moved the URL that it's mapped to. The change that I want to make is when you post something, when I get one of those events, when I get that Atom XML, instead of just logging it out, I want to grab it. I'm going to put an entry into Redis. And the way that I've got it here is, hey, I want that entry to be the URI from that Atom feed and the timestamp. Because I'm going to have multiple, for a video ID that I get from YouTube, I'm going to have multiple updates. And I've got to kind of keep track. So let's go back to the picture and we'll talk about why.
Hey, Deshaun, I'm going to step aside for some time.
Okay.
Need to drop my son to school and I'll
Do
be
it.
back. Sounds good.
Wonderful. I'll be here. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So here's what we're going to do. I have this YouTube video that YouTube comes into my listener. I want to capture that because what I'm going to do after that listener, after I've got that event, that listener is going to do some interesting things over here with Spring AI. It's going to use the AI model to determine some things. Best description or title, whatever it is. A summary of the video. SEO tags for the video. Today we're talking about Spring AI. We talked about Buildpacks. The AI is going to pull out those concepts. Spring Data Redis. And if I say more, Spring Data Redis, Spring Data Redis. The AI is going to know, hey, we're talking about Spring Data Redis. And it's going to maybe recommend an SEO tag for Spring Data Redis. So these kind of things that I don't care about, I didn't do it ahead of time. But wouldn't it be nice if I could have these automatically done for me after the show's done? One of the other things, generate a thumbnail. So this is what's going to happen. But what eventually it's going to do is after it does that analysis, I don't want to like check its work. I just want to like go and update. Go update the description, update the title, update the SEO tags. But what's going to happen is when I do that, when I update the title or description, it's going to send me another event. So I don't want that next event where I updated the title. I don't want that to kick off this whole process again, because then it would be a endless loop. So I've got to keep track of what's happened, which videos I've already successfully modified. I got to keep track of those things so that I'm not putting myself in this endless loop. So what I've done is I said, hey, let's add Redis. And maybe I do it like this. Let's put this event into Redis so that we can just use that event data over here. Sound like a plan? And I'm looking for feedback. Keep me honest. Maybe it's not the best plan, but this is the idea. This is what we're going to do. So today, I just want to get the Redis part in. I made some URL changes. So let's push those. So let's go here and let's just get this out to production. MVNW clean package. Let's just make sure that everything runs. What I was working on, there's an error here that it says the Redis has stopped prematurely. This connection closed prematurely. So it's getting it from Redis, and I don't know. I don't like this error. It's not causing any issues in my test, but I don't know. Maybe I need like an after each, actually. So here what I've done is before each test, like just make sure that we're up and running, but maybe I need an after, not after each. I'm gonna let it go for now. My tests are working, everything's working. My documentation should be working. I added a little bit of documentation. So let's just push it. So git status. Just reminding myself that, hey, I've made some changes. What did I do here? What did I do here? I added Redis. And what did I do here? I added the step that I needed. I added that test container so that I could validate, the writing. I could validate this part. It writes the event to that database. It doesn't puke. It doesn't throw an error. And so let's just keep on going. Baby steps, small steps. I've got tests along the way, but maybe I should add one more test here. When I get that event, should I? I should probably assert that I have that key that I created. We'll come back to that. That's something that I actually want to do with Jitter TED. I want to like ask like, hey, like how far should these tests go? What's the boundaries for these tests? So right now we're going to commit this. This is move API. I'll do the /API. Move docs to root. Add Redis. Hit push. Now, oh, did that not happen? What happened? Oh, I gotta add those things. Cool. So now we're pushing our changes. Again, this is all public. You can go and have these, and it's going to change. But you can go and follow along here. The changes that I just made. Now, I have the GitHub actions in this repository that show how things are going to go. Did I not deploy? I didn't deploy version 007. So I've got these docs here, but my GitHub actions don't trigger until I add a version. So the way that I'm doing is, hey, Jonas, welcome. I'm glad that you're here. Maybe your ears were burning. I was, again, singing your praise, all the help that you've done on this project. We're taking it to the next step. We're going to do git tag v0.0.8, git push origin v0.0.8, because we want to take this code to production. Now it's going to fail because what I haven't deployed yet is Redis. I haven't deployed Redis to this cluster, and it expects Redis. So my test pass, I use test containers, but I haven't deployed Redis to this cluster. So we're not going to deploy this just yet. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to go over here to our Flux repository. We're going to deploy version 7. We're going to make sure I'm logged in. That's to get access to my secrets and all that good stuff. We're going to add this. And we're going to push that. Cool. So that's going to happen. Oh, am I supposed to be in another meeting? Please hold. My things are beeping. And I have a day job, and I gotta listen to my colleagues when I get the little beeps in my ears. I need to pay attention to what's happening. So I'm just gonna do a quick little peek here. All right, we're good. So you only use tags to trigger builds, no snapshot versions. I only use tags to trigger builds. I do not do snapshots, but that I make it configurable. So, and I'll show you what I do here. Like I don't have to do that. So let's look at the GitHub, for example. What I've done is I've said, hey, only when the tag is a version tag. That's the only time I want to do builds. But you could remove those lines, right? You could remove those lines. You could get releases for everything. And in my extensions here, my jgit-ver config, I can say use snapshots. So you get a snapshot version. But because I'm not building on snapshots, I'm not doing anything, all my versions are going to be released. I don't need to use snapshots. So don't build snapshots. And I do the same thing over in Circle CI. Make sure it matches a version tag. So my version tag has to start with that V. Here we go. So good question. But again, this is just for me, this is just where we're at with what we're trying to do. So we've now pushed version 7 and we can go and look in production. We can go look and see at that actuator info endpoint. Oh, we can see that we got version 7 now. We can go look at our Kubernetes and we can see, hey, it's listening. There's version 6 is still there. And here's version 7. I have the ability to roll back to version 6 if I need to. But right now, traffic is going to version 7, and that's all handled by Knative serving. So that's going to scale down. And we're in good shape. Again, Java Grunt, this project has its own Cloudflare D. We figured that out yesterday, that that's probably the better way to do it. So instead of having on a per cluster basis, we did it per tenant. Each tenant's going to get their own set of services so that when I move that tenant to another cluster, they still have their own set of services and the cluster doesn't need to manage those routes, right? That's, Jonas, that's something that you and I noodled on yesterday. The other piece that I think is a really good idea is like just having the one route for ingress that just goes to a gateway. Because that way, that config, the Cloudflare, the ingress config, I don't have to worry about it, right? I can simplify this so I don't have to know every route. I can give you, right, those internal services. Maybe I expose those or maybe not. Gotcha, I built both snapshots and releases, but probably not needed since I'm the only one developing, right? Yeah. What do I want to do with those snapshots? I like to commit my changes in case I go to another computer or I find myself in another place. I like to commit my changes, but that doesn't mean that I need those changes to go to production. This is my way of saying, this is ready. So I'm still doing mainline, main branch development, but I get to decide what goes to production. There's the idea that every commit on main should be a candidate for production, and that's still the case. But I'm giving the tenant the ability to decide. And I want the tenant to make those tags so that when we go back and look, I want to have that audit trail of when releases went out, when releases were made. I want to be able to connect the dots. So again, I've got opinions of what I expect these things to look like. My favorite opinions are going to go into my platform. Maybe some of the things that I'm doing are going to help you out, and maybe it'll help you come up with better ideas, and that's where we can help each other. So we've got that going out. Now the next thing I need to do is I want to deploy Redis. I want to deploy Redis. This Redis. So what I'm doing is, this is all inside of my tenant. Here's a good question. Do you need to set up DNS CNAMEs for your Cloudflare D tunnels? Yes, that's what we do. So here's what it looks like conceptually. Zipkin.javagrunt.com goes to tunnel ID. Inside of Cloudflare, I set up this CNAME to point to the tunnel that this config is announcing. So as a reminder to everybody, in this tenant, Java Grunt. And I have multiple tenants inside of this cluster. But what they are doing, let me move this up here, move these things a little bit. What they are doing is when they get deployed, they are calling out to Cloudflare and saying, hey, here I am. I will accept traffic for that tunnel. And Cloudflare generates a encrypted tunnel back inside of my cluster. So that traffic, so I don't have to have any port forwarding, I don't have to do anything. But the cool thing is then I can have that same tunnel ID. I can have that defined in multiple clusters. I keep the same tunnel ID. I don't create a new one. So let's just do that exact same example. So what we did was I said, hey, I want to take Java Grunt and I want to deploy Java Grunt to another cluster. Remember, this one's messy. I haven't done any of the cleanup. But what I can do is where I've got these other tenants, all I've got to do to deploy Java Grunt to now 2 different tunnels. So let's take a look. Right now, Java Grunt is deployed in my tunnel. It's got, it's got 7 deployments. It just happens to line up with the version, but those are not related. So it's there. I've got another cluster called Nooks that's an Intel-based cluster. This is ARM64. So this is another cool example. Let's just go through it. I'm not going to change anything. What I'm going to do is I'm going to say, hey, I would like Java Grunt deployed. So I'm going to just copy these configs that it's GitOps. The only thing I have to do to deploy Java Grunt, all its services, all of its Cloudflare integrates everything. The only thing I need to do is paste this file here. Everything needed to define that tenant is in that file. So when I deploy this file, git status, git commit, add Java Grunt com, git push. I'm deploying this file. I did a git commit. Flux CD says, oh, I see you've got a new tenant file inside of Nooks. So let's go over there and let's go to that cluster, kubectx Nooks. Oh yeah, I can show you, I can help you with that on how to get those credentials over. Copy those credentials. So I'll tell you how to get those credentials put into your secret store so that you can use them across different places. So we're over here, K9s. We're going to see Java Grunt is coming online. It's bringing up that Cloudflare D. It's bringing up the Zipkin. It's bringing up that YouTube listener over on this other cluster. Fantastic. Now the other thing, hey, Thomas, welcome in. Thanks for hanging out. We're talking about this pattern of deploying tenants inside of clusters. So what I've done now, let's make this a little bit smaller. I'm going to just copy this whole thing. So now I've got the same Java Grunt com tenant is now, it's announced because of Cloudflare D. It says, hey, I can take traffic. I can take traffic over here. So this is what we have right now. As soon as this becomes healthy, it's still creating the container. So maybe I don't have the secrets deployed over there. I thought I already did this. Let's do this. It says it's waiting to start. I think it should have the secrets. What am I missing? Let me do this real quick. I'm gonna go make sure. So I've got this And again, I share it. I'm showing you how I do this. So in my environment, in my envrc, I've got secrets. I've got those tunnel secrets. So how do I put those tunnel secrets? They're in my secret store. I'm going to verify -C which cluster I'm on. I'm on the Nooks cluster. And what I want to do is I want to put those secrets. I want to deploy those secrets, but not the Deshaun Dev tunnel secrets. I want to deploy just like this, customize build /env, the Java Grunt com secrets, the secrets for the Java Grunt tunnel, for that one tunnel, because I have them stored in my secret store. I want to deploy those env subs pipe kubectl apply -f. Go make sure that those are there. So now I've got the secrets are deployed where they need to be deployed to. And I come back over here and hopefully that is all that was needed. This is unfortunate that my cool little demo is not working. And I don't know how deep I'm going to go here. I'm gonna try to kill off a couple of these things. It doesn't look like I'm running any limits. I got a bunch of tasks. I got an autoscaler HPA. So I got something. I got some interesting things happening on this box. It's a little, it's not clean. I need to do some cleanup. The nice thing is I'm comfortable deleting everything off this box and bringing it back because I'm doing it all with Git. All I gotta do is rebuild the cluster, say bootstrap with Flux, and I get all the things back to where they're supposed to be. So this one is it's in an interesting state, and I'm gonna, oh, it looks like we finished. So my cleanup did something, all right? So now our YouTube listener is out there. It's up and running. Cool, we have our stuff going. But now here's the thing. Now I'm leaving it up to Cloudflare to determine where to route traffic. And this reminds me, maybe, I don't really care, but it'll only be for demo purposes. Like when I do this, when I go to the actuator info, if I hit refresh, I don't know which region that's hitting because I asked Cloudflare by going to YouTube listener, Cloudflare decided which one to send that to. Based on latency, based on health, based on whatever, number of connections. Whatever that algorithm is to deciding where to send traffic, it can do it. But now watch this. Now I've got it deployed on both clusters. Now the cool thing is just like you were doing yesterday, I can move. I can say, hey, you know what? I don't want that deployed on K3D Juice. Delete. Boom. Remove Java Grunt com. So I'm removing it from my K3D, from my daily driver. And that's going to go this one, right? Nooks isn't affected. Nooks has all the information, that cluster has all the information it needs for that tenant. But now I go back to K3D Juice. And I'm going to go look, and my Java Grunt tenant is going to disappear. So I should set up my cluster like this so I can swap between my laptop and desktop. Exactly. I'm doing development, so this is kind of K3D Juice kind of comes staging. Like it's not going to live here forever. When it's production ready, those Nooks are going to be up and running, and that's where things are going to, I don't want all of my things running on here. This is my daily driver. This is where I do my development. This is where I do my streams. But it gives me this flexibility, whether it's my laptop and my desktop or it's Raspberry Pis. This gives me the ability, see, now we see it terminating. JavaGrunt.com is no longer resolving here. The gateway goes away, the services go away, the namespace goes away from this cluster. Right, so now it's been removed from this cluster. These lines don't exist for JavaGrunt.com. All the traffic is going to go over here to the Nooks. And we go hit this button, and we hit refresh, and we see that it's still operating. It definitely wasn't hitting here, right? Because that's going away. That wasn't accepting the traffic. The traffic is over at the other one. The traffic is here, and we'll see those logs. I don't have a way of like spitting out a log, but I should. So yeah, so basically only missing the secret store stuff. Yep. We'll move it to my Raspberry Pi cluster. Once you're done setting it up, it's still in the mail. Yes, let's go. Like Raspberry Pis. Like what a great way of taking Spring Boot to production. We're still using Kubernetes. Like you're still using all the cool things that you're doing in the enterprise. But if you want to play and have fun and like feel all the pain, like this is what it takes for me. I want to know where you're at, and I'm so happy that you're going down this journey and actually not just like sitting and learning, but you're actually saying, hey, yeah, I would like to do Raspberry Pis. I want to set this up. You've got an internet connection. You can have Spring Boot, enterprise grade Spring Boot, production ready Spring Boot, cloud native, Kubernetes native Spring Boot running 24/7, taking care of it, having all the production concerns on a Raspberry Pi. That's pretty cool. You don't have to have a cloud in order to do these things. You can do it on a $15 Raspberry Pi. So we just demonstrated that we're up and running, and we showed because of Spring Boot, because of all the interesting things that we can do with Knative serving. I showed you how I handle ingress. And I'm being transparent. So let's go to your secrets, and let me show you again how I'm doing that. So inside of this, which public repo, you will see for that tunnel, what I do is I set up the credentials JSON. So I deploy the secret to that cluster, and then I just grab the secret back. I grab that credentials JSON out of Kubernetes and I put it into my secret store so that I can use it across all the places. So in your Cloudflare D instance, if you followed this approach, you took these steps, which were documented. You took these steps and you took that secret and you deployed it to your file, and you were on your laptop. So you had that tunnel ID JSON, you deployed that to a secret on your Kubernetes that was running on your machine. The next step I do is I just go kubectl get secret tunnel credentials, and it gives me that credentials.json value. I capture that value and I stuck that into my secret store so that I can move Java Grunt across these different clusters. So thanks for being here. Thanks for sharing along. Let's keep on going. So now we've got this. Now I think let's move back. We don't want to play on the nooks. That's where it's at. We showed that really cool capability. I'm going to now move it back. The other thing here is this is how I can do maintenance on my platform. I can say, hey, you know what? I'm going to bring that cluster down. I'm going to move these tenants, right? Data is another concern, but we'll get to that. But I'm going to move these tenants. And actually, data, we're going to get to that in just a minute. I'm going to move this tenant back over to K3D Juice. And I'm going to do it this way. I'm going to have it accepting traffic in both clusters. Let's do git status, make sure I'm not committing anything extra. Git commit add Java Grunt com. All I'm doing is saying, hey, in this K3D Juice cluster, the one that's running on this machine, on the one that I'm streaming on, the one that I'm doing my development on, I have Docker running and I have K3D running on top of that. And I'm saying, hey, deploy this tenant. Let's define down here, deploy this tenant and all of its things, deploy it to this cluster. So cool, we're gonna push. It's gonna be in both clusters momentarily. I'm not gonna wait. We already saw that example. I'm gonna go over here and I'm gonna remove it from Nooks because I'm doing development and I wanna like be able to watch and I don't have all the steps in place. So let's remove it from here. It might be down for a second, but again, I just didn't wanna wait. I wanna get further in the stream. we're going to remove Java Grunt from this other cluster. So right now, Java Grunt's deployed to both clusters. All I did was say, hey, here's my tenant. Deploy this tenant to the cluster. And because I just deployed it to that K3D juice cluster, that is going to be set up. But I don't want Java Grunt deployed over this Nooks cluster anymore. Because I'm doing development here, I'm connected here. This is what I want to do. So this is the Nooks cluster. We're going to go over here. We're going to remove it. From that cluster. And then over here, what we will see is everything from the Java Grunt namespace will start to disappear. As soon as Flux says, oh, hey, right, Flux is on this poll, there it goes. So now the Java Grunt tenant, all the services, all the config, all the stuff is no longer deployed over here to Nooks. And it is deployed over here to K3D Juice. So let's go back over to K3D Juice, my daily driver, my machine, my Mac. And we're going to see Java Grunt hopefully is there. Look, it's up. That container's creating. You know what I think is happening here? I think this is because of the secrets piece. So I think I can just go up here and do this. Because I put that secret inside of the namespace. When it deletes the namespace, it deletes the secret. It seems like a bug at first, but I think that's a feature. Right? I don't want those secrets sitting around when that's not there. I need to improve that process a little bit so that my Flux can get the secrets from the secret store. I need to figure that out. But I think we're going to be in good shape. And what I'm going to do here is, instead of having it wait, I'm going to hit Control K to get another one. There we go. So, and now that one's already up and running because it's got the secret. It's already connected. Fantastic. So we're good. Now we're back, and I've got Java Grunt. I've got this webhook listener that we made with Spring Boot on the stream last week. You all helped me. I appreciate you so much. Now we're going to take it one step further. I want to add Redis. Instead of just getting that webhook and spitting out the logs, because I'm scaling to 0, right? This doesn't stick around. I'm going to scale to 0 so the logs don't do anything for me. The logs aren't going to do anything. Look at it, it started up in 0.079 seconds. Isn't that awesome? So what I want to do is when I get that event, I'm going to write it to Redis. Now, you're asking yourself already, is like, how do you move Redis across clusters? How do I do that? Like, is the Redis deployed as part of the tenant? How am I going to do this? And we talked about it earlier. One of the first questions of the day was like, how do we deal with persistence in a database cluster? So if you're me and you have these kind of beliefs, I don't want active passive. I don't want cross region stuff. Like I've learned some lessons. So what I'm going to do, okay, this is my default. And actually, let me take a look here. Let me see if I've already got this. I have this concept. Where I've got a build cluster. I've got here a management cluster. But I'm gonna throw a concept. I don't have it implemented. I don't even have it set up. But what about having like just data? It doesn't necessarily need to be a cluster, but I have this concept of data and how the data services are going to be set up. The data services are going to need to be requested. Like, hey, I need Redis. And what I'm going to use today is I'm using Redis Cloud. I'm gonna tread lightly. Pink Emma is here, so if I put tokens out, I know that she's gonna grab them. So here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna tread lightly. I'm gonna go over here into another window. I'm gonna go to my Redis Cloud console. I'm gonna log in. And Redis Cloud has a free tier. It's got a free tier. I'm gonna look at my calendar real quick because it's 10:30. And I want to do at least 8:30 to 10:30, and I don't have anything on my calendar, so we're good. Redis Cloud has a free tier. I set up a free tier instance over on Redis Cloud. It's in, the database is in US Central, which is where I'm at. It's in GCP. So I've set up this Redis instance, this managed service, managed by the people that know Redis the best. And it's there. So I've got this Redis instance that's just going to be, it's going to stay up, it's going to be maintained for me. I don't have persistence enabled. I'm doing the free tier, like nothing. I could put Redis on a Raspberry Pi. We'll get there. But right now, I put Redis out in this free tier managed service. So how do I give access to my app, to my tenant inside of this cluster? Yeah, I mean, who doesn't? You'll hear me say it a lot. I don't have cloud money. I've got Raspberry Pi money, except for when the cloud is free. Like, free tier is amazing. Right, Redis, thank you. My favorite free tier is Oracle Cloud. They are the most generous. Don't sleep on Oracle Cloud. I'll just say that. I'm impressed with a lot of things that are happening over there, especially if you're using Oracle. But don't sleep on Oracle Cloud. You'll be, actually, while I'm sitting here, I do this cloud native build pack, which we talked about earlier. I hope I still have the project. I did a TF OCI ARM. So I used to, before I started using Circle CI, I had this set up in Oracle Cloud, a 24 gig VM, ARM64 VM with 200 gigs of disk. This beefy box all in the free tier. But I had this Terraform to set it up and plug it into my my Tailscale. So it was automatic. It was a part of my network, VPN and all the things. And I got that from Lee. Like, he showed me how to do this. He was like, yeah, here, go. He had it already done. It is, their Terraform support's awesome. I'm a big fan. But not only that, their resources are good. And the thing I like best is if I've got VMs, and yeah, all of that stuff is gone at the moment. But if I've got VMs in the cloud, like, I get notified by Oracle when there's an issue, whether it affects me or not. I get these notifications, and I always like the gap, the amount of time. Like, oh yeah, hey, we notified you of an issue. Oh yeah, by the way, we fixed that. I like that part. But yeah, they're doing good things. Don't sleep on them, especially if you're doing ARM64 stuff. So anyways, I'll come back. We set up this Redis instance, and it's free 99. And what we're going to do is we want to plug it into our new version of my app. So version 8 of the app that we built on stream that you can follow along with. We're going to close this up. We're going to close this up. We're going to close this up. We think it's working. But version 8 is deployed, but version 8 adds Redis, or 0.0.8 adds Redis. So I can't deploy version 8 yet because I don't have Redis figured out. So let's do this. We're talking about databases. We're talking about security because, yeah, this is what's going to happen. You're dealing with this. So let's plug in Redis into this app. So let's go here, watch spring.io. Actually, let's just do spring data Redis. And we're here. And we are going to see that we only need 2 or 3 properties. Let's go in here into the reference doc for Spring Data Redis. Getting started. I'm just looking for those properties, the Redis host. I have different options, server and port. I believe I need a password as well. So here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna connect this. I'm gonna use, because I don't know it off the top of my head, I'm gonna go over here and I'm gonna jump into the application.properties. Here's some things that we have. So now this is interesting. I put this property in, but that's not the one that I want, right? Oh, it says Zipkin endpoint or localhost. So when I don't have that environment variable set up, it'll use localhost. But when I deploy it to the cluster, it says, hey, Zipkin endpoint is at this URL. Fantastic. Fantastic. That local instance of Zipkin. It's right in, it's already in there. So this is what I'm going to need to do. I'm going to need to pass in some other environment variables into my cluster for Redis. So let's jump back over here. And I think it's Spring Data Redis. Host. And I'm gonna do the same thing. If Redis host is defined, use it. Otherwise, localhost. Spring Data Redis. Is it port? Port. Same thing. If I've got a port defined, use that. Otherwise, use 6379. Now, I think I have a password. Again, Pink Emma, you stay away. I'm going to, Pink Emma likes to see all of my passwords and all of my keys. So here I've got a username called default. So let's do this, spring.data.redis.username default. Nope, I'm gonna do it this way. And then also spring.data.redis password. That's so by setting it up this way, this is interesting. If I set it up this way, my application.properties, I believe that everything will work. And I believe that my service connector, when I'm doing this test application, I think it's still gonna work. So I wanna just check that. I wanna check a couple of things. Pink Emma says, hey, I live off those free tokens. Don't I know it? No. So I've made these mistakes. I like to stream. I like to do these things in public. And every once in a while, like I put a token up on the screen or a password or something. So I try not to do that. And I try to follow these patterns of keeping things off. And Pink Emma always catches me. So here's what we're gonna do. I wanna make sure that when I add these properties, that everything still works. That my test container implementation, that my tests are still gonna work when I add these properties. Because effectively, I'm not changing anything. These stay as the defaults because I haven't defined these. I would like to fix this log. I don't think it's breaking anything, but I'd like to fix that, know why that they're better understand, but I'm not gonna dig into that right now. So I'm gonna add these properties, and these properties allow me to pass in the Redis host and Redis port. So what I could do is if I run test application, like this is what I normally do locally, I could run this and I could say, hey, cool, I'm connected. What I could also do locally is I could say, hey, I want to connect to my Redis Cloud instance. I'm not going to deal with that. I'm not going to take those extra steps. What I'm going to do is I'm going to build this version. I'm putting those pieces there. By having those properties defined, in my Graal VM, in my native image, it'll be looking for those properties because I've defined them. So I'm going to push this, and then I need to figure out how to get my my username and password into my tenant. So let's do this first. All we've done is the application.properties. Our tests are still working. Everything's still working. We're going to push these properties so that in the cluster it's looking for those properties. And I have values. I have environment variables that I can assign to plug in. So we're going to go ahead and commit. Git commit add okay, so we're going to push that. Again, I did do a release build. I'm going to do a new release build here. So let's see. Pink Emma said, I showed off the application we've been working on lately for prospective users today. The one where I've had the OAuth issues. And of course, number one request was, I feel your pain. SharePoint integration. I couldn't even say it. It took me a second. Well, good luck. Good luck. I mean, I'm not sure which runs the world. Is it SharePoint or is it Excel? Somewhere in there. We pushed this version. I'm going to tag it. I'm going to say git tag. I should be v09 git tag because I want a new release. If I don't put the tag, my platform, I don't get a release. And this is how I do it. Git push origin v0.0.9. Just a reminder, my stuff here, this project, is building ARM64 images because I do Raspberry Pis. So it's building ARM64 images, but it's using Graal VM and giving me a native image. So the OCI containers that I'm taking to production on my Kubernetes clusters, I have ARM64 versions and I have x86 versions. And we just demonstrated that. My Nooks cluster is x86. My K3D cluster is ARM64. And my basement cluster is all ARM64. But I showed you the same application running on ARM64 and the native image on ARM64 and a native image on x86. I'm pushing these public, but we can go take a look. And this is just reminders because they're building. It'll take a minute. I go look at these tags. So version 8 was done. If you look in here in v0.0.8, it has a x86 AMD 64 layer and an ARM 64 layer. It's got both. And depending on which platform you're asking for it from, if you're on ARM 64 and you ask for v0.0.8, you get the ARM 64 layer. If you're on x86 on one of the Nooks, you ask for v0.0.8 of this, you're going to get the x86. I think that's cool. But those instructions, the setup, the config for all of that is here. It's public and you can use it. You can do that. So I've got, and I only do native images here for now. Later today, my friend Dan, Spring Office Hours is going to happen later today. But also before that, Dan, I'm going to put this out there too. There is a really cool conversation. Let me find it. There's a cool conversation that's going to happen, and they're going to talk about Project CRaC. So I showed over here, I showed the fast startup time. Oh, it's scaled down. It's scaled to 0. So it's not there. Let's show this off again while we're doing the stuff. I'm going to hit the docs. No, it's YouTube-listener. But the docs I moved. The docs are no longer at /docs. They're at the root. There it is. And guess what? It started up. So that instance started up here. And I like to point out, it started up in 0.075 seconds. But this is a native image. I have a smaller container, but it's a native image. So there's no JVM. So my performance is going to be consistent. My startup is going to be fast. But later today, maybe you've heard of Project CRaC, coordinated restore at checkpoint. And it's pretty hot. And I'm trying to find the link to this webinar that I will be at. Why can't I not find? I just need to go. I have to type in the real Dan Vega. And I'm going over to Dan Vega's Twitter. I want to show this. This is where I'm going to be later today. You can register here. We're talking about Spring Boot 3.2, but they're also, I hope, going to be talking about Project CRaC. So Project CRaC is coordinated restore checkpoint. It's going to give me the ability to have this same fast startup time without losing the JVM. So how cool is that? You're actually like, what? I don't get it. So what Project CRaC does is like, hey, when I deploy my application, I don't even know how to draw this picture, to be honest. I deploy my application, JVM, and then some point in time, I take a checkpoint. Actually, let me do it like this. I take a checkpoint. Like after the JVM is all warmed up, I can take a checkpoint. So I'm taking all of the information from the JVM and I'm writing it to disk. So I can scale to 0. I can shut down that JVM. If I've got this checkpoint, I can restore from checkpoint at a later time. I get from that point in time where I took a checkpoint and wrote it down to disk, I can then later, I can start up without having to do all the class loading and all the everything. I'm going to start up from the status, from the state that the JVM was there. I'm going to come right back to that same state. And I can have that startup time in milliseconds instead of seconds. So think at scale, think large JVM, think of all the things that, not every app is going to start up in milliseconds, but the JVM, right, takes a little bit longer to start up. It's doing a lot of cool things for us. All your connections and all the data that you're putting on the heap, right? You can put more things. You have a bigger heap in a JVM. You can modify it on a native image, but this is another option for me. When I want fast startup time, I'm not going to be able to run it on a 512 megabyte Raspberry Pi, but again, I got Nooks back there. I've got an Ampere back there. Maybe there's a workload that I want that fast startup time. I want scale to 0. That's my kind of default. But maybe there's a workload where I want all of the features of the JVM. Maybe like what we're doing right now, like with native images. Let me go back to this one. With native images, these things, I can't dynamically add a property to a native image. I've got to define all the properties that I'm going to expose. I have to define all those at build time. That's one of the drawbacks. But with the JVM, I can change properties, I can add properties, I can change things at runtime. That's just one of the things, one of the features, capabilities of the JVM that makes it really powerful and why we love it. But I have this new capability, this different way of scaling to 0 with Project CRaC. And the team over at Azul brought that out into the market and they're doing great things with it. And I want to, I'm going to be there. So one more time, here it is. I'm going to put this URL. I'm going to put that into the chat because that's where I'm going to be. Register, it's free. That's where I'm going to be. Oh, here it is. I'm going to close that. I'll put that URL into the chat. If you're interested in hearing about things, I remember when I first heard about it, my mind was like, what? Super amazing stuff. And that's where I'm going to be later this afternoon. So here we are. We're continuing. We should have a V09 here. If I hit refresh. Yep. Oh, we don't. The x86 version is done. It was done 2 minutes ago, but the ARM64 version is not done. So what's happening? Look at this. Thanks for the link. I was looking at this on my own, like Luis. I'll see you there. I'll see you there. Here it is. I'll put it up there one more time. I'm over here. I was going to show like what my pipelines, and again, these are, go take it, go use it. What my project does is that I have part of it running on GitHub, part of it running on CircleCI. The GitHub build happened, right? So the GitHub built its image and it pushed its image up to Docker. But then I go into a manifest phase where I'm going to glue these things together. And it says, hey, can you pull down this ARM64 version? Oh, you can't do it yet? Okay, cool. I'll wait for 5 minutes and I'll retry. When I can pull down that ARM64 version, then I will do the manifest and glue those images together. So what we see over here is the x86 version is done. So my build process is looking for that ARM64 version. Oh, and it found the ARM64 version, and then it made that manifest that glued the AMD64 with the ARM64. It glued these two images together into a manifest. And now when I ask for v0.0.9, depending on which platform I get, I'm going to get one of these. And you can see the digest values are the exact same. I've got these small images because I'm running them on Raspberry Pis. So now I've got v0.0.9. But I haven't deployed it yet. So watch, I have not deployed it yet, right? This is, I don't want that. Here at actuator info, we can see that this is still at version v0.0.7. In order to deploy that, I've got an image, and I'm kind of doing this manual. I want you to have that control. In order to deploy, again, this is also how I would roll back. In order to deploy things, this is the way I choose. I could have made this latest, and then just done the polling and just give me the latest version. But then in order to roll back, I would be making another git commit to roll back so I get that latest version. No, this is how I'm going to do it. I'm going to take the steps because now I've got an audit trail on my image creation and I've got an audit trail. I know exactly what version of that artifact was deployed to production and when. Right? And because I'm using Flux, now version 9 is being deployed. So I can go over here. I'm going to back up a little bit. I can control how these things are being deployed. Version 9 is going to be deployed. Version 9 is looking for Redis. Version 9 is not going to start up. It's going to fail, I think. It's going to error in some way. And maybe it'll start up, but it's going to, oh, it's not looking for it yet. Oh, it assumes that Redis is there on localhost, whatever, 6376, right? According to my application properties, it assumes that localhost 6379 is Redis, that's where it is. And if I make a call, so let's do this cool step. I'm going to hit refresh. I see that I've got version 9 is deployed, right? I hit my actuator info. I can see I got version 9. But the other thing I did was, I remember I provided the docs. The docs I moved to the root of that URL. And I give you instructions for how to use this API, use this webhook thing that I've deployed. I can show you, like, it doesn't look great, but it works. I give you this HTTP request that passes in a feed as the body to that URL. And I know that it works because my tests generated this documentation. This documentation is generated from the last time that I ran the tests, and I run those tests as a part of my workflow. When I do these things, I don't skip tests. Part of the POM, part of that project says, hey, when you run those tests, I have this REST docs in there. I'm running these tests. I take the test output, the snippets, the generated documentation, and I put it into the root. I put this documentation right here in my package. And, oh, I'm getting pinged. Please hold. I need to, again, keep up with what's happening in the day job. So I'm going to go and look. Please continue to hold. This is what's happening. My documentation matches. So you, friends, you can go here to, this is the URL. You, and somebody's going to do it. You can copy this request, and I'm expecting it to error because I don't have a Redis deployed. There is no Redis on localhost 6379. So I put that URL out there, so you can go look at the docs. It's the actuator endpoint is at actuator info, but I'm getting pinged in my ear, so I just want to make sure that I should still be here. And I appreciate you for coming. Let me do this as well. Let me go back up, and I'm gonna remind everybody that maybe joined late. Is I'm gonna take this. Let's make this a little bit bigger. Like, I'm gonna do it. Let's make it blue or green. All right, this is me. Ask questions, interrupts are welcome. I just want to work next to you. I want to be available. I wish I had somebody. I wish this was available as an option, a few years ago. But I'm checking in with my work. I had a ping in my ear, and I just want to get caught up real quick. So I wanted to reintroduce myself to you. While I go and check in over here. Whoops. All right, we are here. Oh, hey.
Hey, Sean.
How are you? Welcome back. I'm checking in. I think I have I got a bunch of buzzes in my ears, so I got some notes. I'm just checking in.
I was listening in while you were going through all of that. It was
fantastic.
Awesome going through that. So I have to take a break. I'll be going away for a few hours, so I just thought of coming online here. And
thanks for hanging
saying
out.
thank
It
you.
looks like I'm going to have to wrap up.
And yeah, let's take up the Spring AI piece maybe in the coming days.
Yeah, my plan is, I think I have Spring office hours. Yeah, but my plan is I was going to get into this a little bit more, just connect the dots.
Sure.
Using Redis as my kind of event stream thing. So yeah,
Let's do that. Yeah,
we'll do that. Yeah. And thanks again for hanging out. I really appreciate you. It's been wonderful. And yeah, we're just going to keep on going. We're learning in public.
Perfect.
Thanks so much. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Good. Thank you. You too. Thanks.
See ya. So hey, we're doing stuff. I'm getting caught up. All right, but there was something. I got a message. And I'm just trying to find it. All right, I'm getting through all my messages. I'm just going to respond, and then we're back to it. All right, here we go. I think I'm all set. I think all my friends are all caught up. All my colleagues are good. All right, I think I'm set. I'm gonna do this. right, and I'm back. Here's where we are. So just to remind, like, ask questions. Like, I don't have any timelines or goals. This is just kind of a live stream. We're just working on stuff together. And I know that some of these projects are neat. So I'm doing them out in public. I'm putting them out, all the things as much as I can. I'm just trying to keep Pink Emma away from my tokens and my secrets. But I'm putting it out there, including ways of building it and doing it along with me. But I will circle back and I will do a little video, not live stream. I'll just do a video like, hey, here's the steps that we took, and I'll just kind of build it again for a different domain, and we'll keep on going. I'm glad that you're here. Like, we have a nice little thing going. This is fun. And now we're finally taking this project back. We're going, I'm going to run this thing that I expect it to fail. I don't know that anybody did. Nope. So nobody had. Oh, so somebody ran the challenge string. Somebody ran the challenge, the first one. Somebody did that. I'm going to do this post with HTTP, and I expect it to blow up. I expect to see a Redis not available. I can do it in here. And I got a 500. Yep. So if I go back to the logs, I expected to see it say, hey, Redis isn't there. Oh, wait, it says invalid document. Oh, so I got more than one error. So it says, hey, I got the feed, but then I got an invalid document. Oh, so that was unexpected. So it didn't even get to the Redis part. Well, this was unexpected. And again, I don't know all the things. Where did the invalid document come from? So I'm looking through my logs. Because here's the thing. Locally, when I ran this, my test passed, right? Let's go back over here and let's validate here. When I run this, post should return success. When I run this, in this case, it gets a test container. It's got Redis, but the only difference is in this case, it's not a native image. It's successful. So here in the logs, we see like, hey, yeah, it's cool. It got the event, but when it was time to, so maybe, here's what could be the difference. The event that I'm passing in, no, I passed in the same one from the tests. It should behave the same way. The event that I passed in, let's go over here to our controller. It got it. It did that part. So this part works on my machine. It works in the JVM, but it's not working here. This, I believe, is where we're failing. The invalid document is the error that we saw. So what could be causing this? Sorry, I'm hearing something in my ear that I know it's not from here. So let me just find it real quick. It's the same kind of like noise, but I can't tell where the noise is coming from. So I got to check all the things. All right, here we go. Yes, this is +1. Perfect. All right. So those are just good messages. Oh, I got one more. In all the different places, right? How many ways are you getting messages? I've learned that, yeah, interrupts are welcome. So I have to set aside time. I have to be able to still get my work done, but being somebody that can be interrupted at times, right? I set aside times where I can be interrupted. Like now, I want to be interrupted. Like now I'm here, I'm making myself available to you, and also within my org, I want to be interrupted. I want to make myself available because that's teamwork. So I'm getting a couple of messages. Normally I'm going to end this stream 10:30, or that my goal is 8:30 to 10:30 Central. But today I'm having fun and we're cooking. And I ran into a problem. And I believe that this problem is because of the native image. Is my guess that I've not taken something into consideration. And the only thing that's different here is maybe I pulled in this Atom feed reader, this Roam tools. And what I haven't done is I haven't tested the Roam tools, which we're doing right now. I haven't tested this project to make sure that this project has all the metadata configuration. This project might not be ready for the AOT compilation. This project might be doing some reflection or something and not telling GraalVM about it, its needs. So I need to take another step. I need to perhaps add some metadata so that GraalVM, so this native image can work the way I want it to. Jonas, if you're going to be coming in a little bit late, then that's just incentive for me to stream a little bit longer. The 8:30 to 10:30 is like, that's something I think I can do. That's my goal. Again, I'm trying to get a head start on my 2024 resolutions. I want to be able to stream. I want to do this. One of the other things, right, the outcome is like, especially for you, like you've been so receptive to these ideas, is like, hey, I got a couple of projects that I've built. So like, these are like to-dos. Let's say that, like the Twitch metrics exporter for Prometheus, right? I did that 2 weeks ago. It's just a simple Spring Boot app. And the idea was I wanted to build some of those projects that might encourage some of you to live code more, because that's cool for me. Like I literally am scouring and scavenging and looking for people that are doing Java and Spring live, because just like what I'm trying to do here, I want to be somebody that's on, available, you can listen to and ask questions to. I'm also looking for that, right? Jitter Ted is, that's who kind of, Ted Young, like he's over on Twitch and YouTube. And what he does is he does his live streams on Twitch and then he edits those, right? I should say like this. He starts on Twitch and I'm following his lead and I'm having a lot of fun with it so far. So thank you all. But then he takes that video and he edits the stuff that he did to make it a little bit easier to consume, because nobody wants to like sit through the live stream, 3-hour live stream again. But after he does the live streams, he edits them or remakes them and puts them into YouTube. That's what I'm going to do. So I've got these projects, this one that we're working on right now and this other Twitch metrics exporter. And I'm going to try to make those as like 15 minutes, right? The thing is like these Spring Boot topics, I don't need to fill up time. I'm doing that plenty here. I can go into the details on the live streams, but the output, right? This project, we did this one live. Fantastic. But I got other places where I could go do another one and I can leave the example, but I'm going to redo it. There's value into redoing it for me. I want to make, reiterate, re-practice all the concepts that I went through. But then easier to consume. Like, so you can tell your friend and be like, hey, yeah, there's this cool thing. And I can go tell them, give them an example of what they can do. It doesn't have to be for Twitch, but show how to integrate with these types of things, deliver custom metrics for Prometheus and consume them. So this 8:30 to 10:30, we're going to stream. We're going to build some stuff. We're going to have conversations. I'm going to be here to answer your questions. But then, offline, not on the stream, I'm going to make some videos and I'll push those out over to my YouTube. But things are typically going to, and I'm streaming on YouTube and LinkedIn and Twitch and X and Kick. But these are like my defaults. This is where I'm always going to live stream. I didn't always live stream to YouTube. But I'm having fun with that as well. But this is where I'm going to live stream all the time. This is also, Twitch is where like the bots and the interactive stuff, that's where that's going to live. Like, so imagine on Twitch, you can do these things that I don't know if I can do on YouTube. In chat, you could do like kube cuddle get notes, and in the chat you would get an output. Right. This is a long ways away, but I want to make the stream a little bit more interactive. We're going to learn some things along the way, and that's one way of doing it. Right? Like, cool, where I could just like take that output and put it into the chat. You're going to be able to do that on Twitch. You won't be able to do that on the other platforms. So the bots and the interactive stuff, that'll happen on Twitch. That's the live stream primary audiences, live stream over on Twitch. But these, I'm still going to stream to YouTube, and you're still going to be able to watch all the streams. But YouTube is where the edits are going to land. I'm going to follow Ted's wonderful example. So yeah, that's what we're doing. We're having fun. But I have some other things that I do need to prepare for. I have a bug that we need to figure out. I think I know the problem because this is the new library that I brought in. And I brought it in off stream, so I apologize for that. But this is one of those concerns. One of the things that we should do, that I should have done, is I know how this works. I have a pattern for this. I brought in this new thing. What I should have done is I should have, in my tests, I should have had these integration tests that I don't have. I should have put this in place. And what this integration test does is it's going to build a native image. It's going to build the native image for this listener. It'll build it as a part of the tests. Let me go back here. Build the native image as part of the test, and then just rerun all the tests so that I can guarantee that my native image test results are the same as my local unit tests. Right, so this is the step that I missed, but I have a pattern for that. So next time I'm going to add that to this, because this is what we're doing. And I'm going to be using these third-party libraries. And it's not that, the Spring stuff I know is going to work. It's when I bring in those third-party libraries that they're not on the GraalVM AOT train yet. So this is an opportunity for me to provide the metadata to those open source projects so that you don't have to deal with that. So that you, when you grab that project, the metadata is there and you can build your AOT native images with GraalVM. That's the goal. That's the pattern. So that's what we're going to do. I'm going to write the test. That's what we'll come back to next time. I'm going to write the tests that validate the native image. I'll update my pipelines so that those native images are validating the test as well. And then we'll add some metadata to the com.roam tools. But I think that's a good place to stop. I ran into an issue. We've got Redis connectivity that we are now breaking because we're going down this native image route. But again, this is things, hopefully that sheds to light some of the things that you might run into. The Spring team has done a lot of work. The Graal VM team has done amazing work. That we get these capabilities to deploy Spring Boot production-ready workloads to all the places. I'm all for it. That's why I'm excited to be here. So I'm going to look if there's any last-minute questions. I'll do this. Let's just take questions. I'm going to wrap up on my work. Let's just take some questions. If you've got it, we're wrapping up. And if there's no questions, that's cool. I hope to see you tomorrow. But I'll hang out for a minute and see, because I know there's a little bit of a lag between you and I, but we're working on it. This is fun for me. I appreciate you all. And depending on what platform you are, give me a follow. Give me a whatever the buttons are. I appreciate it. It goes a long way. But I'm trying to be here 8:30 to 10:30 Central Time every day of the week. Like, let's just start the day together. For me, I like starting my day with you. This is fun. It's been fun. I love all the good feedback. But I want to make time for questions if you're stuck. But I'll hang out. If you don't have questions, that's fine. I'm just glad you're here. I can go like this. Oh, here we go. What do you use for cluster on your local machine? Good question. I use K3s. So K3s is what I use everywhere on my local machines. I use K3D to deploy K3s. So these clusters. So there's good question. K3 or TrueCTX. That's the little tool that shows all my clusters that I have access to. All of these, this is K3s, K3s, K3s. This is K3D that deploys K3s. So it's still K3s, but it's K3s on Docker. So on my machine, I've got Docker installed, and then it's got K3D deployed to my Docker desktop. But I still use Flux to configure it. So hey, I could destroy my Docker desktop, I could reinstall it, I could create a cluster. I give you the instructions on how I create that cluster. I give you those instructions over here in my README. This is the command that I used. I disable traffic because I use Knative serving, and Knative serving delivers Contour. So the way I have Contour as that load balancer, or that load balancer, internal. So I disable traffic, but this is the command that I run to install K3D on my machine, on my desktop. And again, this is the same machine, this M1, this machine that I'm sitting at it's running all of the IDEs. It's running the Kubernetes cluster. It's also delivering the stream to 5 different channels. And I've got Slacks and all the other things that are happening at the same time. So you can do this, running Kubernetes locally, if you do it right? So I've got a small footprint. Remember, I have things that are scaling to 0. I only have 1 instance of these things. It's for development, but I can still be as close as possible to production. I don't have to have everything running in production, but I'm closer to production by running Kubernetes locally, by having things like Knative serving, because that's what I run in production too. So K3s is the answer. How frequently are you going to be streaming? Yeah, streaming and streaming, both. Right, these places. This is where I stream, plus LinkedIn, Twitter, X, and Kick. So I'm live streaming to all those places, but this is Monday to Friday, 8:30 to 10:30 a.m. Central. That's when I'm doing things. You're still having Cloudflare issues. So here's the cool thing, right, Jonas? I make myself available not just here on the stream. This is my calendar. You can grab, like, if you want to like sit down and look at the same screen together, grab some time. This is not just for you, Jonas. This is for everybody. It's out on my website. I'm here to help. I'm here to help. My role, I am a Spring developer advocate. But I do other things. I know other things. I want you to know that you've got somebody that's willing to sit down and listen and, yeah, help. So if you get stuck, grab some time and we can jump on a Zoom and we can look at it and maybe I can help you go a little bit faster. And if I can't, I'm at least willing to try. So, good questions, Jonas. I hope we get it. But all this stuff is out there. If you've got topics, right? We had, one of the questions earlier was like, hey, I want to talk about persistence. Like, if you got things that you're interested in hearing, when I'm done with this YouTube thing, we'll go on to something else. I just want to get this done and we'll go on to something else. So if you've got ideas that you'd like to see or you want to work on together, Jonas, if you want to work on something together, we'll set up and you can jump on in and we can just do it together. So if you got ideas, let me know. And the best place to, all my socials, all my contacts are Deshaun.com. Should be easy to remember. But I'm also JavaGrunt.com, right? Oh, fun fact, I'm also RedisGeek.com. That's me too. So here we are. We're having fun. Like, let's build some stuff. If there's no questions, yeah, we'll wrap it up. And I hope to see everybody again tomorrow. I'm going to be at, let me put that thing. I'm going to be here later today. I'll put that into the chat. And I do spring office hours. With Dan Vega later today as well. So that show is coming up. Me and Dan talking about Spring. It's an office hours format. We're going to have something cool. Here it is. There's the link to that show. Oh, here we go. Why can't I hit my website from my own network? I can only access it on my phone using cellular. So I'm going to draw this real quick. You've got the same thing, right? The same setup. You've got the cluster. And you might not have the tenant set up, but you got the Cloudflare D running, and you said, hey, like, connect out, and here's where I am. And when you try to access that URL, whatever, myurl.com, you try to access that from your machine, you can't. So when I go here, right, we have the YouTube, if I ping YouTube listener.javagrunt.com, right, it's working. But what that's doing, it's actually from my machine, it's going and it's hitting Cloudflare D and coming back. So if you, oh, awesome, thank you. If you found, or if you added a domain into Etsy hosts, and you're trying to hit that domain, it might be trying to hit that domain and it's not getting the ingress piece, because Cloudflare D is acting as the ingress to that cluster. It's handling the routing as well. So make sure, do this, like do the NS lookup for your domain and see what you're getting back on your computer, because on your phone, it's DNS is saying, oh yeah, that domain is handled at Cloudflare, and that's how I get the ingress. But again, this is something we can definitely work through. Grab some time on my calendar. Grab 15 minutes, or ping me. You know how to get a hold of me. But yeah, we can work through that. What is the curve learning time for Spring Boot? It worked yesterday. Well then, you were using Git. Let's roll back and see and look at the diffs. So you don't even have to roll back. We can do the Git diffs between the configuration. But yeah, that's weird. And the good thing is it's working from the phone, so it's probably an internal routing thing. Oh, maybe it's a DNS cache. Try to clear your local DNS cache, depending on what platform you're on. Sometimes your computer caches those values. It says, oh, I know where that URL is. Here's the IP, and it does that. So try that. That might be something I would look at. But this is a question that we get all the time. We talked about it a lot yesterday. It's easier than you think. You do not have to know Java before you take Spring Boot to production. I'm taking the classes. I'm still learning. There's tons to do, but so is my 5th grade son. My 10-year-old son is learning on Spring Academy, and this is where you should start. Because what I think you're going to find, and what I hear, is that, let me open this in a new private window so you don't have my login. Spring.academy. What I think you're going to find is that these guides and these courses are so easy to do. You're gonna be surprised at how easy Spring Framework and Spring Boot makes getting things to production. It makes it easy. Taking things to Kubernetes, like we're doing. The Kubernetes native, all of those things that the Spring team has put into, you're gonna find this is the best way to expose them and to learn about them, is with Spring.academy. But there's also, there's more. I think that the learning curve is really, really easy. I think that this makes it even easier. And yesterday, one of the other things that we did yesterday was, like, if that's too low level, like if you're trying to do more advanced things, I made a recommended reading. I've got some books that are Spring. Craig Walls, Spring in Action. That's the one that I'm actively listening to right now. Reactive Spring by Josh Long. That's the book that I'm reading. I don't read as much as I listen. Cloud Native Spring in Action by Thomas Vitale. Spring Boot Up and Running by Mark Heckler. Learning Spring Boot 3.0 by Greg Turnquist. These are some books that I would say, but I would definitely, if you're new to Spring, I would definitely say start at Spring.academy before you look at these books. Get through those courses, get through the free courses. And then again, I'm here. If you've got something interesting or something specific that you want to go down, I will help you kind of maybe navigate the different projects. I'm here to help. So hopefully that answered the question. It worked yesterday. Oh, thanks. Thanks for saying that. I have a pile hole running on my network acting as a DNS. That's probably the issue. So I created a new tunnel, stored the credentials in a secret store. So my DNS probably had the tunnel ID from yesterday that I just deleted. See, sometimes it just takes thinking out loud. And sometimes I can be better than a duck. Oh, I appreciate you so much. Thank you. I appreciate that. So, hey, we're having fun. You're trying to learn Spring Boot. We're wrapping up for today, but I will be back. I'll probably be back later today, but I'm definitely same time, same place, Monday to Friday, this is what I'm trying to do. Getting a head start on my New Year's resolutions. This is what I want to do. Hopefully it's helped. Feedback is welcome. Like if there's things that I could be doing better, I will read the comments. I will try to respond to those comments. Like, let me know. And if there's projects that you want to be working on, or there's things that you want to see, as soon as I'm done with this YouTube project, these things, I'll be looking for the next thing. And if it's something I can do and demonstrate to help you out, I'm all for it. So let me know what you'd like to work on. Let me know what you'd like to see. And we'll go. Thank you. Thank you guys. I really appreciate that. Let's go. And with that, I think we'll call it a day. And I'll say thank you one last time. Yeah, I gotta get with all the things. But yeah, remember to like and subscribe. I appreciate you, and we'll see you tomorrow. We'll wrap it up. Thanks again.